The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. We are live to tape on August 29th, 2022, episode number 528. My name is Gonz, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, aka the Cabana Boy, live from California, here to serve you a podcast that brings you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's emergent phenomena is loneliness. I'm lonely. Basil is lost somewhere in time, somewhere in BlackRock City, perhaps a black hole. But I was promised a phone call, a video, a Skype call, something to let me know that he was okay. But I have not heard anything. So, I think he's fine. My estimation is that he is either asleep in his trailer because he had to travel there, overnight or something, or he's so he's already a little inside knowledge on Basil. He's kind of on his own clock, right? He doesn't really follow human time, like the rest of humanity time. He kind of goes by his own clock, which is amazing that we have a podcast that comes out fairly regularly due to his lifestyle. But you go to the middle of the desert with, for Burning Man. And again, he's not there to do all the bad things. He's there to shine a light on the darkness. I would imagine that he is more disoriented with time. So he is either sleeping or he's stuck in some kind of traffic trying to get into BlackRock City. We'll probably try to get I have my Skype open so that, in case he is able to connect at some point during the show. But I'm running the ship solo today, so I appreciate everyone's grace as I try to wade through this. And I have to say, prepping for the show, it takes quite a bit of work to not just have the show notes ready, but have the episode, the stories sort of down pat, the emails that go out, the text messages that go out, the social media. There's all kinds of stuff that takes place behind the scenes before we go live. And having to do all of it solo, because Basil's taken on more responsibility as time has gone on in terms of the pre-show stuff, doing some of, and I think I've also missed a couple things, in the process. So anyway, besides the point, let's get into some of the things that we're going to discuss today, and we'll just get going here. First off, we're going to talk about Burning Man and just the report from DailyMail talking about what's going on there. And also some robot updates. Obviously, we'll do some FLIPPY updates. They're updates. There's more than one today, although there's one main story. Then there are some interesting things that Jared Kushner has recently said that is very much in line with what we've been talking about here and what I've been ranting and raving about for, not raving in terms of a good thing, but just ranting about for the last decade. So we'll get into that, as well as some cyborg stuff to go along with it, because I think it's all in line here. We're going to go look at some things happening in China and how China's workforce is, or at least for the youth, is really, really bad. And it really does show the thesis that we put out that is FLIPPY related as well. More from China as well. And we will also get into some Covido Waxino, and some of the after effects of the still in a pandemic, but also kind of post-pandemic era that we're in, and something called the Mercury Project that I think is very interesting. And we're going to tap it out with some Antarctica surveillance technology. So again, a little bit shorter today, hopefully. Doing it solo, I don't know that I'm going to have the energy or the ability to get through everything smoothly, because again, we're trying to balance all the things I got to do here: the video, the audio, the jingle board, the stories that you see, the commentary. There's a lot happening. I could use a couple robot arms to help me, to be honest, but that not there yet, not quite there yet. But to kick things off, we are gonna go to a story about Burning Man.
Coming to you live from
Burning Man.
Welcome to the camp of the unknown god.
Yes, Basil is trying to find his mates over there at the camp of the unknown god. And we'll see if, again, he'll tap in or at least message me or something, buddy. Let me know you're okay out there, because, it is kind of a thing. In fact, before we start, we should go ahead and call upon the producers.
Producers, assemble!
Yeah, just pray for Basil, his safety, and not just spiritually, but we've all prayed for that, but just his physical safety and his ability to connect with Wi-Fi. If the Lord can make those alleged Starlink satellites connect so that we can get a message from Basil, that'll be fantastic. All right, so this is from DailyMail.co.uk, and the headline here: nearly 80,000 costumed revelers to arrive in Nevada desert for week-long Burning Man festival. And it says costumed revelers in the headline. Maybe he got rejected, because he wasn't wearing a costume. Although that would be odd, because his whole thing is in a costume. Let's see what it says. Return of the Burn. BlackRock City comes alive as thousands of revelers rock up in their RVs for week-long Burning Man festival after 2-year COVID hiatus. Burning Man has been a tradition in the Nevada desert for the past 36 years, but in 2020, event organizers decided to cancel the annual event due to concerns over COVID-19. The next year, the organizers decided to plan a virtual burn, though thousands decided to take matters into their own hands and hold a makeshift event in the desert themselves. But this year, the week-long event is back on track, with event organizers announcing on their website, quote, "After several long years, we are going home with the capital H." And I have to point out that, every time we hear from these folks from the Burning Man type of stuff, these transformative events, they always speak in spiritual language. You know, they always have kind of a spiritual undertone to everything they say. For example, the continued quote here, "It's time to resume our waking dreams and look to the future as we rebuild and recreate together." And if you talk about the fall, coming from my worldview, and a lot of you guys listening, the producers and everybody who share a similar worldview, there is this desire for man to build and rebuild, this ideal that exists in the minds of men, that, hey, there's perfection. We got to perfect society. We have to perfect man. And I think it's very fascinating, because where does that come from? Where does that desire come from? Well, you know, if you ask an atheist or maybe a secularist or someone, they might say, well, you look around and things are failing. The church has failed. People fail all the time. And you have to say, well, if you're an evolutionist, isn't that part of the design of evolution? Because the ability to lie, or the ability to be cunning or something like that, is beneficial for the survival of the fittest thesis. But they're not satisfied with that. They long for a world that is more peaceful and harmonious and things like that. And if you look at the biblical narrative, it's there. The Garden of Eden, we had it, and we lost it because of our inability to obey God's simple commands. And I mean, if you look at human history, that's all it is humans failing to abide to God's simple commands. But I point that out because, it's been on my mind a lot with the pushback from certain people and certain producers and stuff, which is totally fine. I really think that this is healthy. This is healthy in the in-house church conversation kind of way, a familial differences kind of way, because do you agree? Let me give you an example. Do you agree with everything about everything with your family members, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your mom, your dad? Guaranteed. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Guaranteed that there are things that you disagree about, from whether it be your favorite dish to whether there's a God or not, and everything in between. So, having differences in opinion about this mission that Basil is on as part of, Carl Teichrieb's ministry and everything else, it's okay. I think it's actually good. It's okay, because you want to flesh things out. Iron sharpens iron. And it doesn't mean that, we love you less, or we think you're not saved if you disagree with us or something like that. That's not the point. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that the spiritual language, the spiritual undertone that is always part of the discussion here with people that go to places like Burning Man, they are seekers. There are people there that are there, shamans and stuff like that are organizing, they're leading the way in terms of leading them astray, I would say, spiritually. But the vast majority of the 80,000 people that go there, they go there for two reasons. One is either they're just there to have a good time, they just want to party, whatever, right? But there are a good amount of people that go looking for something. They're seekers. They want truth. They want the reality of the world to be expressed to them. They want to know the truth. They're seekers. And if there isn't somebody representing God's presence there, shining a light on the darkness, then we might be doing it wrong. We might be doing ministry wrong if we're just preaching to the choir. And it gets into a whole thing. I've been reading some stuff and listening to some sermons and doing all that kind of stuff to kind of feed my own thing. And I don't want to get into it because that's not what this show's about. But I just want those who disagree to understand that, number one, it's okay to disagree. Number two, these are people that are seeking the truth. And, you got to have people there that know the truth to express it to people, to communicate it. And it's not to convert people. That's not the point. But maybe you can have a conversation. Maybe you can build a relationship with people that does lead to the salvation of souls. Maybe you can put a rock in someone's shoe, make them think about why they're there, really reflect on, where they are in life and things like that. So again, little side note thing, but it's important to think about these things in a wider perspective. And again, it's okay to disagree. All right, so back to this article here. The theme of this year's event, dubbed a temporary metropolis dedicated to community, art, self-expression, and self-reliance, is Waking Dreams. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, we don't need God. We just need self-reliance. But that's on the spiritual level. On the more physical level, you can maybe agree a little bit with the self-reliance thing. It's we don't need governments to tell us what to do and tell us how we should live our lives and how we should spend our money and all that kind of stuff. So that rebellion against authority, I could relate to it on a kind of a carnal level. But again, they're multiple layers. And then waking dreams, the theme. According to the organizers, after a long hazy blur of pandemic insomnia, as if a majority of the people at Burning Man are going to have such clarity on everything. They're not going to be in a hazy blur this week. Anyway, adrift between sleeping and waking, it's time to start imagining the future again. This week-long festival finally began Sunday morning as a 7-square-mile makeshift encampment called BlackRock City, where free-spirited individuals who spent $575 each to attend this year's event can enjoy a multitude of parties, art installations, and even some things that are not good, and free food. It will all wrap up on September 4th with the burning of an effigy known as the Burning Man. And there's a photo there, and you have to admit that the art is amazing, but again, there's always sort of the spiritual thing behind it, right? And there's some photos here, people dressed up, having a good old time, some... the photos and things you see, it really is... I have to say that this is psychological preparation for the metaverse, because, the metaverse that I've seen that they're building so far, it's just kind of what this is, what you imagine to be, in terms of just all the wild things that you encounter in a world that is virtual, that you can basically create anything you want. Anything you'd imagine to do, you can do. Sound familiar? Genesis chapter 11, Tower of Babel. It features dozens of sculptures as well as a multitude of events, from parties to meditation sessions. No prayer sessions? Among the many events expected this year are plenty of scheduled parties where so-called burners can meet one another, enjoy some music, and, of course, some alcohol. There will be music choices for everyone, from Latin music to jazz sessions to 80s pop concerts and discos. More meditative activities will be offered for those who want something a little calmer, including a hammock forest. Now, listen, just a hammock forest by itself does not sound like a bad thing. I would, if I found myself stuck in Burning Man, I'd hang out at the hammock forest, just to kind of, chill out and sleep in a hammock. A hypnotherapy session and a communal peppermint bomb breathwork exercises, according to the San Francisco Gate. Meanwhile, more active revelers can stack and climb milk crates. Oh, wow. Isn't that a trend thing where people are doing? Kind of dangerous. And for those who are expecting to get physical with one of the many projectile throwing contests or a foam weapon fight, a bikini armor crafting workshop is recommended. All right. And for those who want to expand their mind, Burning Man will also offer several educational sessions on topics like the intersection of artificial intelligence and astronomy, as well as the use of psychedelics in surgeries. Also new this year is the camp on the playa, the section of the desert where the event takes place, called Consensual Abduction, where guests can climb through a wormhole slide to arrive at a dance floor for all-night raves. Or, I said that weird. For all-night raves. And there's more stuff there. The usual pagan-esque activities that are part of the culture and lore of Burning Man. And, there's an interesting piece of art here that I'm looking at. It's kind of like a cage. It's like a three segment cage, almost kind of like a clock tower at the top there. And it's got these 3 legs on it. And yeah, it's very, very bizarre. Lots of time and energy goes into building these things. I mean, it is not a quick thing. These sculptures and everything else. And again, I recommend you go listen to some of the older episodes of Canary Cry News Talk, just because you'll get a sense of the kinds of things that are there, what it's like to walk around. Basil had his microphone and he was walking around and just running into random people and everything else. And it really, I think, is helpful to understand that, again, these are just people seeking something, seeking to fulfill the void, and trying to do it with all the wrong things, I would say. But there you go. That's a little quick article. We'll hopefully hear from Basil as he is able to settle in and find out what he's up to. So I did have something completely unrelated as a story, just in case Basil did show up, because then, talking about this article would have been kind of pointless. And that's just the breaking stuff about stuff going on in Iraq. Shells fired at Baghdad Green Zone, security sources. At least 7 shells fell Monday in Baghdad's fortified Green Zone, a security source said, as chaos erupted after Iraqi Shia cleric Mustafa al-Sadr said he was quitting politics. Baghdad under a little bit of turmoil there. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that was breaking as I was putting this episode together. And it is one of those things that requires a little more deep dive, I guess, or a little more analysis. But nevertheless, there you go. That's our little intro. And again, you'll have to forgive me because what I do normally when Basil's talking is I'm prepping for the next thing, right? So if it's a jingle, if it's the next slide or the next thing you see on screen, that's what I'm doing. But because I don't have Basil to do that today, I'll be the one rambling, and there's a great chance that I will mess up on something. So please be kind. Be kind. It is Monday after all.
Gary, what day is it? Monday. 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 Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah, it's true. I'm lonely, and it's Monday, which makes it doubly worse. And today's the 29th. Oh yeah, the calendar does mention that this week is Burning Man, so there's that. The Canary Cry calendar. Personal things, I don't know. There's not much to talk about from my personal life. There was something I was going to mention, but I totally forgot. My mind was all consumed with trying to get this show going today and doing it solo. But hope everybody had a good weekend. Sorry about that. And because things are getting pretty wild, and we'll get into some more stuff that really caught my attention. But in the meantime, I do want to mention that Canary Cry News Talk is a show that is value for value. That means you listen to the show, you think you get value out of it, you simply provide value back with your time, talent, or treasure. And that is a cyclical thing. We don't do advertising, we don't sell products, we don't do the things that are normally done by podcasts to sustain themselves. We are totally listener supported. And when you do support us in that way, you are not just listeners, you become producers. That is the way things work. You support a show financially or with your time or your talent. You are producing, you are helping to produce the show. And so we want to recognize some of the people that are coming in, really helping out. And these are people, executive producers is what we call them. Anyone who comes in $100 or more is considered an executive producer. And I just want to kick it off with Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. He came in with a Dogecoin donation. Maybe it was Elon Musk. Maybe Elon is giving us a hint there. The only part of the note that I can read is for Burning Man. So thank you very much. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is to do the intro for the executive producers.
Executive producers.
There you go. Yeah, see, I go solo and I completely forget about certain things like that. So yes, our first executive producer is Anonymous. Thank you for the Dogecoin. Hopefully Doge to the moon. Appreciate it. Anonymous.
Where'd you find this?
And we have more people who came in with support. And the next person is Producer Morv. He came in with $133.
Illuminatus!
And he is on a streak, which is what we do something fun here. If you're a new listener, we count the number of episodes in a row that you support. And Morv is at 100 133 episodes in a row.
133 is all about spiritual enlightenment. It is all about surrendering to the divine. 133 is sending you a guiding light.
Out in the street. Best thing on 2 feet.
Congratulations, more of you are officially part of The Streak. You are no longer just on a streak, you are The Streak. Which, there's some interesting ways you can interpret that, especially when we're talking about Burning Man. But he has a note here. Good morning, brothers. So I've been a little slack on coming up with the knighthood name and kept putting it off, but I think the time has finally come. I figured it would be a good fit to do it on a big streak day like today. It's hard for me to put into words how much of an impact this ministry has had on my life, but please know that God is working in mighty ways through you guys, through your dedication to this show, and through this through this community of believers. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing the show and community into my life. Can't wait to be celebrating with you all in glory. Keep fighting the good fight, brothers and sisters. Jesus is coming, and he does have a new knight name. Sir Morv, Knight of the Burning Chariots. Oh, man, that is awesome. I love that knight name. Sir Morv, Knight of the Burning Chariots. Might be one of my favorite knight names so far. A little note about the name. I've always been fascinated about the chariots of fire mentioned throughout the Bible, and I'm also a big gearhead/car enthusiast. I'm not too sure how things are going to work when the new heavens and earth are created, but I'm thinking it will be a pretty cool gig to get a ride around on some fiery chariots. Yeah, I don't know if there's fiery chariot mechanics in eternity, but yeah, that would be a cool job to have. Get your hands dirty in heaven. Thanks for all you guys do and for this great community. Love y'all. Sir Morv, you have been a vital part of our community, and we are very grateful for your support over the years and months, maybe. Definitely months, but for sure years. It's got to be years now. At least 2 years or so. So thank you, Morv, for today's executive producership.
Where'd you find this?
And if you don't mind, Morv, I'd rather have Basil here for your actual knighting. We will label... Yeah, that's tough because you want it to be on episode 133. We will put down episode 133 as your knighting day. And your knighting episode. Actually, you know what? Never mind. It doesn't matter. We're doing it by episode. See, this is what happens. I'm just rambling on about nonsense. Okay, it doesn't matter because it's the episode number, not the streak number that we document the knighthoods. And if you want to see all the knights, just go to canarycrynewstalk.com/roundtable, and you will see the long list of knights and dames who have supported the show over the years. So thank you very much, Morv. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. Sir Morv, Knight of the Burning Chariots. Thank you very much. All right, we got one more. Sir Captain Redbeard, Pirate King of the D-Moochers. Thank you very much, Sir Captain Redbeard. He has a note. Captain Redbeard. I got to do it in a pirate voice. Ugh. It's the kind of nonsense that I leave for Basil. All right, here we go. Yarr, Captain Redbeard sends some booty for Burning Man, a much-needed mission field many people ignore, are intimidated by, or simply know nothing about. Bring back some new crewmates, lad. There you go. Thank you, Sir Captain Redbeard. Hey, what would be great is if we can just demooch a bunch of people from Burning Man and bring them into the Canary Cry community and save some souls. So this demooching is an honorific one from Sir Captain Redbeard to all the burners.
You've been demooched. Where'd you find this?
Thank you, Sir Captain Redbeard. We'll be thanking the rest of our producers later on. There are some meetups coming up, and there's meetup. That's the one thing. I apologize. I couldn't get all the meetup reports in order. I know we're behind on a couple of them, and I know there was a big, long weekend of meetups. But if you'll allow an episode or two for us to get that organized so we can present it nice and cleanly, I appreciate that. There was just too many things for me to do to get the show going today. And that's one of those things that Basil takes care of usually. So thank you very much. your executive producers. Thank them, pray for them. They are keeping the show alive. All right, what to do next? Oh, yes, it is time for the FLIPPY update.
FLIPPY update.
Do you want fries with that?
Yeah, it's time for the FLIPPY update. FLIPPY is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use FLIPPY to discuss how the robots are taking over everything. And now there's nothing we can do about it until Jesus comes back. That's my little own spin on the little tag there. Today, we have a story from news.cgtn.com. And the headline here, skiing and curling robots shine at World Robot Conference. Now, we might have already done the report on these robots that do curling and skiing. I don't know about skiing, and maybe curling we mentioned before, but this was interesting from the photos here. But let me read a little bit of what it says. As the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics heralded a new era for the popularity of ice and snow sports across China, winter sports-related robots have become a trending topic in exploring new ways of combining sports and smart technology. You guys notice the trend, this mix between sports and smart technology. That is going to be a continuing thing. Not a huge baseball fan, but sometimes I watch baseball, and I've watched baseball all my life. And, you look at the umpire and you look at where the ball hits the glove of the catcher. And, sometimes they even have that little rectangle box that shows you where the strike zone is. And when it's clearly outside the strike zone and the guy calls strike, or it's clearly in and the guy's like, ball, come on. But I guess that's part of the game. That will all be eliminated with robot umpires eventually. Little things like that, there's part of me that thinks, well, you're already using the technology to track all that. Why not just, just make that the call instead of humiliating the umpire? Anyway, maybe that's part of the conspiracy to show the frailty of human ability or something like that. Anyway, skiing and curling robots will be eye-catching in their debut during the 2022 World Robot Conference that takes place in Beijing Yizhuang International Convention and Exhibition Center from August 18th through the 21st. So it already happened, but, we're a little behind on things. In specific, the robots are the curling hexapod robot and skiing hexapod robot, both featuring 6 legs, as the word hexapod implies. They are developed by the Intelligent Walking Robot Research of the Shanghai Jiao Tong University as a key project in cooperation with the China Olympic Committee during the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games. And there's a photo here of the curling circle. And yep, it's a spidery looking thing with a robot with 6 legs. And they're labeled front legs, middle legs, back legs. Because, can't tell without it. I want to see the ski robot. Where's that ski robot? All right, they're sticking on the curling robot here. Here we go. Okay, many elite athletes may picture themselves as robot-like scoring machine. In comparison between robots and athletes, who's Chen? It's got to be some kind of doctor here. I'm skipping stuff around. Chen Zhenbao, research associate from Shanghai Jiao Tong University. Chen said, quote, robots can achieve high precision in a repetitive way that some elite athletes may not. Oh, and by the way, remember the football quarterback punter robot thing that we talked about a couple episodes ago? His name was Seeker, right? Yeah, a lot of themes overlapping. And I'm looking at the picture here of this 6-legged hexapod ski robot. It's the exact same robot as the one for curling, except the 3 legs on each side of the robot, each leg is on a ski. So, okay. All right. I gotta admit, you see this thing coming down the mountain on the snow side there, it would be pretty terrifying, especially if it can't stop or something. Let's see. There's panda robots. Yeah, we've always known about the panda robots, which is very ironic in China. And then it talks about the Chinese robots and all in kind. So there you go. This is kind of a shorter side flippy update, but we're going to talk about a couple other robots and their stories related to certain aspects of China in a moment here. So things will connect. But in the meantime, got a little transhuman update here. So there was an interview or some kind of live stream that Jared Kushner did recently, and he says something very interesting in it. I have the Mediaite article here, which is not something that we usually report from. The headline, and you'll see why. The headline here is Steve Bannon attacks transhumanist Jared Kushner, claims he rushed experimental gene therapy vaccine and bid for immortality. And again, this is not the kind of outlet that we normally do stuff, but there's a clip associated with Jared Kushner saying a certain thing or two. And given the history, it is something that I thought I would mention here. Former Trump White House advisor and campaign manager tore into his one-time West Wing colleague Jared Kushner on Friday after Kushner said he believed he might, quote-unquote, live forever. Kushner made the odd comments, which sparked a slew of media headlines and conversation from former Trump official Richard Grenell. Kushner said, "From the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully, with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die." Oops, wrong button. That's not a thank you. That wrong button. I was looking for the ding. There we go. And let's see. Let me try to pull up this tweet and hear it from the man himself, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Or there's a lot of antichrist theories about Jared Kushner, and I can see why. This is not helping your sort of PR against those who say that Jared Kushner might be being groomed for the Antichrist. But here we go. Let's see. Let me see if I can play this. Here we go.
Friend. And then finally, I think that from, the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either, the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape. And then the other thing I like, friend. And
okay. So... get in shape. There's no problem with working out. Get in shape. I started doing a lot more push-ups recently. I'm trying to shed some pounds, and it's to make sure I can keep up with my son, who's becoming a crazy climber. He climbs everything. Trying to stay in shape. Sure. Trying to not preserve the body so we don't deteriorate. I can understand that. But the logic behind Jared Kushner wanting to get in shape, like, I want to get in shape, not because, hey, want to just be in better shape. Just, we've been sitting around inside all for a couple of years during the lockdown. No. It's not because of that. It's because we're either in the last generation to die or the first generation to live forever. Okay, Jared Kushner, like, what are you talking about? This guy must be really rubbing his shoulders with some technocrats, because you don't just come out and say that. You've got to be plugged into some kind of network of individuals who are seeking technological immortality that I've been talking about for pretty much since the beginning. I got to say, the reason why I got so passionate about making content and the Bible and Bible prophecy and all that stuff. I was saved in 2008. I was baptized, or 2007. I was baptized. And, the first couple years, it was sort of learning the ropes about just the Bible in general and the history and getting all the apologetics in there, learning the basic philosophical arguments for the existence of God and the absurdity of atheism and things like that. Just doing as much as I can. I would say it was like a university level education with the advent of podcasting and everything else that was out there. Found a lot of individuals, Dr. William Lane Craig, and I can't think of all the names right now. I love David Guzik, although he's not technically an apologist. But all these guys, even Chuck Missler, that's when things started to go a little fringe for me. But in general, a good foundation of the Bible and its truth and how it resonates in history and everything else. And then I started to really get into asking questions about, cosmological questions about UFOs and aliens and demons and, where does that all fit into the Bible? And it was the description of the end times that I was very struck by, because I was reading it going, wait a minute. The stuff that the cutting edge technologists, scientists, all these transhumanists really were talking about sounds exactly like what the Bible describes as sort of the end, basically, the end of human history, which makes sense. Chuck Missler always said that, the Bible is history written before it happens, and especially Bible prophecy. So, yeah, just reading certain passages and thinking, wow, because for most of human history, at least known human history, for most of academically acknowledged human history, especially post Christendom, but I would even say post the Reformation. So it hasn't been too long, but the Reformation with the splitting of the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church and all that kind of stuff, and people became more literate with the Bible. A lot of people just said, it's either all happened in the past and it's all colorful metaphorical language, the book of Revelation and things like that, the book of Daniel, it's all history. And there are actually really good studies that show that, yeah, there is actually some history that probably were fulfilled or some kind of type of fulfillment that happened in the past, especially with the destruction of the Jewish, the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. There's some good arguments there, but there's still some things that hasn't happened. And unless you're going to say that there's like massive, millennia gaps in between, which some people argue, it's much more likely that there are archetypes of these prophecies and that we are living through something like it now. And the more and more I look around, the more I'm convinced. It's like, wow, we're really at this point in history where people using science and technology are going to try to do what Jesus did on the cross and, in the tomb, rising from the dead and becoming, getting an eternal body, 1 Corinthians 15, all that stuff, immortal bodies. And so it's just so fascinating to me. And so that's what caught my attention. So transhumanism really was the path by which I started to really dig into the Bible, dig into all these issues. And it got to a certain point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I had to put it in a documentary film. That's what Age of Deceit was. And then even more so explored in Age of Deceit 2, where I really dove into the history of alchemy, the occult history, which again is something that humanity has been trying to do, this restoration to the golden age, or whatever they want to call it. It's all the same. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all the same throughout history, ever since the fall. And looking at the attempts, how close perhaps they got post-flood at the Tower of Babel. And, there are arguments about what kind of technology existed back then or whatever. But in terms of the general heart of man trying to reach heaven and God saying, no, not yet. That's not how this is going to play out, and confusing the languages. Because remember, in Genesis 11, it says that, anything they imagine to do, the people, building the Tower of Babel, they can do, which happens to be a very similar line at the beginning of the movie Real Player One, talking about the Oasis, this virtual world, the metaverse, basically, where people can be anybody they want because, they're just in the metaverse. They can do whatever they want because they're in the metaverse. Anything they imagine to do, they can do. They can be all those things because it's in the metaverse. And so anyway, a lot of overlapping things here. So yeah, there you go. That's Jared Kushner's little clip there. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And then it goes into Steve Bannon, back to the article here. It goes into Bannon ranting and raving about this. He said on, what is this? Gitter? Yeah, Gitter. Still think that's a horrible name for a social media platform. But I guess he said on Gitter, transhumanist who believes it's a real possibility that he could live forever and never die put himself in charge of Project Warp Speed, the effort to rush an experimental gene therapy / vaccine through trials towards emergency use authorization. Now things begin to become clear. Now let me point out something about Steve Bannon here and just his comment. He says here, a transhumanist who believes it's a real possibility that he could live forever and never die. Now, just taking that quote in context, what does a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ, what do they believe? Do they believe in eternal life, that they'll live forever and never die? You know, the body might die, but, you know, we're given new bodies. So, I don't know. There's just something there where Steve Bannon, I know there's a lot of Christians that like Steve Bannon, but I'm just saying the shade here being thrown at the transhumanist is, oh, he thinks he could live forever and never die, which is kind of the same thing that Christians believe. So just a small, detailed, nuanced thing there, but I want to point that out because it's easy to just defend a guy like Steve Bannon. It's like, oh yeah, he supported Trump and he's trying to drain the swamp and all that kind of stuff. But we're equal opportunists here when it comes to criticism. And I don't particularly know exactly Steve Bannon's faith, and I haven't been following him enough to truly know. Maybe somebody in the chat or somebody in the comments can clarify his worldview there. And then it goes like this. Encyclopedia Britannica defines transhumanism as a social and philosophical movement devoted to promoting the research and development of robust human-enhanced technologies. Yeah, and then it talks about Alex Jones and DeSantis and everything else. Not a lot of substance here, but you get the point. The thing I wanted to bring out is that quote from Jared Kushner, because it is quite remarkable that he wants to work out because, hey, we might have the technology to live forever. And I have to say that, we here have always been kind of the weirdos. Like, I was talking to a close friend of the show last night on the phone, and I was telling him how when everything shut down, like when they started to really shut down everything at the beginning of COVID, I had to, especially the months leading after and stuff like that, I had to fight my pride. I really had to be like, okay, it happened. What do we do from here? Because there was a part of me that wanted to just say, I bleeping told you, world, that this thing was planned and it's going to happen. They're going to do this thing and try to pull off this thing. This is like change and all the stuff, the reset, whatever you want to call it. So there was that real sense of, I called it, we called it, as not just me, as a community of people that have been saying for many years, and not just us, and not our generation. I mean, I'm talking generations prior, who have said stuff like that. We were right about this, at least this pandemic thing. And I really had to fight my pride because at a certain level, it was just like, man, come on, we've been saying this. So in light of that, I want to bring you this other story here from dailymail.co.uk. And because it goes right along with it. It goes right along with what we also talked about in the last couple episodes about creating mythologies for people or for children specifically, and the connection to superheroes.
Are you ready to become Cyborg?
Again, this is dailymail.co.uk, and this article is headlined Schoolgirl, 8, as in 8 years old, who lost an eye to cancer aged 2, reveals she's upgraded her blue prosthetic lens to a sparkly pink one, and her friends say she looks like a superhero. We have been saying, I've been saying in particular, you can probably find some videos that I've done from, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where I was breaking down some Marvel movies. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was Ultron. Maybe it was Transformers. There was a whole period where I was doing like breakdowns of movies and stuff. Don't do that as much anymore. It's just overwhelming, to be honest. Other people are doing it, and I encourage people to do it. But it just gets exhausting, because every single movie you watch, every single TV show you watch, you can literally be like, oh, that's that thing. That's that. You can just see the predictive programming everywhere. And one of the big points that I made back then, and I think it's true, is that they are conditioning a generation to accept the quote unquote upgrade. And here's how the story goes. A schoolgirl says she can't wait to show off her new sparkly pink prosthetic eye when term starts next week after she lost her own eye to cancer as a toddler. Daisy Passfield, 8, from Hertfordshire, was diagnosed with a grade D tumor in her retina when she was just 14 months old. The then tot had chemotherapy to shrink the tumor, but 2 months after chemotherapy, it began growing back, forcing doctors to remove her right eye completely. I have thoughts. Gotta keep reading. Daisy underwent a 4-hour operation months later. Her family had hoped a newer procedure designed to disintegrate the tumor would work, but traces of it were left, and fearing it would grow, they opted to have Daisy's eye removed. And there is a photo here of the young girl. Beautiful young girl and her mother, and her right eye is, she's got this eye that is like pink, and like the iris part is pink, and she does look like a little cyborg child. And here's another, for those of you watching, here's another photo of the young girl, a close-up of her holding her old prosthetic eye, and next to her new prosthetic eye that's pink in her eye. There's some photos of when she was a baby. The 8-year-old originally chose a blue prosthetic eye, but this year decided to add a little glamour to her look. The confident schoolgirl surprised her family and doctors by asking to have a new eye in her favorite color, pink glitter. Now she's proud to show off her superhero eye, which pals say looks befitting of a unicorn or a dragon, much to Daisy's delight. Daisy from Abbots Langsley, Hertfordshire, said, quote, "I feel happy because everyone can see my pink sparkly eye. I'm so excited to show everyone at school my sparkly eye." Man, I mean, this is just an 8-year-old girl, but I can't help but think about the all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid. And it's pink and sparkly. Quote, "I think they will love it just like I do. Everyone I have spoken to has said how lovely it is." She says that she's already been told by fans of her new eye that she looks like she has a superhero eye, a dragon's eye, and a unicorn's eye. Ugh. Can we be a little more obvious about the spirit behind this thing? I like all those things, she says. I like superheroes, I like dragons, and I like unicorns. Which, by the way, if you have not seen the origin of the unicorn and the initiation ritual that it is in the occult, man, that's pretty big. Daisy's mom, Alicia Passfield, 30, said it was tough trying to get a diagnosis for Daisy's condition. Alicia said that she noticed there was something wrong with Daisy while looking at a picture of her. She said, "I noticed from a photograph that she had a white glow in her eye, and her eye had a glaze on it. The most common symptoms are a white glow in eye or a pupil in dim lighting, or when a photo is taken using a flash and a squint." And man, these pictures just keep getting closer and closer to her face on this article. It kind of starts off with the family, then it's a little portrait shot, and now it's just like a real close-up. So you can really see the detail in the iris and the sparkly pink eye. And goes into the details that I don't think it's necessary for us to really dig into for the story. But, it makes me think, if you consider the problem, reaction, solution equation, cancer. We all know somebody who's been affected by cancer. Family, friends, everybody that I know knows somebody that has been affected by cancer. And we know a lot of cancer just logically comes from, the poor diet, at a basic level. Not even have to get conspiratorial, diet, lack of exercise, things like that. Maybe not lack of exercise, but just immune system stuff, weakening it. And then you can get into some of the more fringy stuff. What are they spraying in our skies? The chemicals they put in our food, the GMOs, everything else. So when you think about the problem, reaction, solution equation, it's very difficult for me not to think that all along the spreading of cancer, not only does it create an industry, a huge pharmaceutical industry that treats the symptoms, not the cause, the symptoms, right? That's what all of big pharma is. It's a big money-making machine to treat symptoms, not to treat the core issues. They had to have known, they as in, the spirits that watch over, the negative ones, not the good ones. The watchers, if you will, the principalities and powers. They had to have known that eventually the humanity will get to a point where they will continue to use technology to try to solve this issue of cancer. And so in that regard, I feel that this is very much in line with the problem, reaction, solution. Daughter break, what's going on? Hi. Do you have something? Oh, look at that. That is so adorable. Thank you very much. Oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's your special day.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Okay, I got to keep doing the show.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, she's so cute. She made a little piece of art for me. Ooh, it's green screening. A little green tree so you can't see it. And a little booklet. She's very crafty. Love it, love it. Family show. All right, so yes. So just in terms of the problem, reaction, solution, I can't help but think that cancer itself was sort of allowed to spread throughout society because, we're not going to solve it for them until we have the proper technology in place to solve it permanently in the transhumanist sort of agenda. So there you go. A couple stories here to think about why we have been right for 10 years. But in all seriousness, it is the kind of story that really affirms my whole ministry, not my ministry, the ministry with Canary Cry News Talk and just all of the producers and listeners out there and everybody who's been following along and have been trying to wake up their friends and family. It's stories like this that really can help drive home the point about, hey, Scripture talked about this a long time ago. God wrote history before it happened. And things like predictive programming. Why all the superhero movies? Why the billions spent on entertainment that conditions a whole generation of young people to want to become cyborgs? So there you go. It's party time. Go to canarycry.party. You'll find a tree of links with ways to watch the show, listen to the show, produce the show, connect with us and the community. Yeah, go to canarycry.party. Just put it in your URL, hit enter, and it'll take you to this page with a bunch of links that lead you to all sorts of things. The text notification, the actual podcast page itself, how to produce the show, the Discord chat, the supply drop, which, by the way, we're in the last couple days here before we make the cutoff for the next supply drop. You also have a little segment titled Valuable Resources, where you got Street Team resources, you got the Canary Cry Bingo, you got the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. Of course, you have Ravel. That's Basil's other podcast where he talks about society, scripture, and scandal with Dr. Christopher Ryan Gates. There's also a link there right underneath. I know he always pitches the Ravel thing, but just because I'm doing solo here. I have the Face Like the Sun archive. And if you click on that, it will take you to the Odyssey page. The Face Like the Sun Odyssey page, where I have a lot, not every, but most of the videos that was published on the Face Like the Sun channel is preserved here. Now, for some reason, the documentaries didn't make it. I don't know if they were too long or what, but yeah, because they're each like 3 hours long. So for some reason, yeah, they didn't make it. But everything else is there. So if you are trying to look for something that I published back in the day. Some of these are like, look at these videos, 7 years old. Like, come on. Weapons of Antichrist, Athena, Googletopia, Internet Fascism, CERN Watch, Tower of Babel, Solar Eclipse. That's 7 years ago. Wow. Let's see. Are you a Satanist? Obama on Kimmel, UFOs, aliens. Yeah, we've been tracking all this stuff for a long time. Anthony Patch, the hexagram deception. That was a real unpopular one with the fellow Christians. Let's see, Stan Deo in there. Anyway, all the videos are there from the Face Like the Sun channel. The word of encouragements are there too. I really should get back to doing those. I'm just trying to find time to do them, and it's been tough with the children now. But there you go. You can do that. It's all there at canarycry.party. You can also find the Canary Cry Clips channel on YouTube or Odyssey. That's where we have our clippies. Go in there and clip out all the segments of this show so that you don't have to sit through or look around for the story or the segment that you want. The Clippies do a great service by just taking out each segment by itself and making its own standalone video. And it's great to share with friends and family, the content. Although, the view count is low. You got, just a few views here, 77 for a couple of them, 50, 121 on this one video about the YouTube snake robot that we talked about a few weeks ago. And I know that can be kind of a turnoff. Like some people might say, oh, they only have 20 views on this video. Like, why should I listen? That is a psychological thing. So if you guys can go there and click around, check out some videos, share it with friends and family, we'd really appreciate it. And you can also receive text messages. All you got to do is text Canary, the word Canary, to 877-740-3226, and you will get a text notification before we go live every show. And that's one of those things I am not used to doing. That's Basil's thing. But I think I was able to get in there, and hopefully everybody who is subscribed to that today received the text message. And by the way, I didn't know that there's some auto thing on the text where Canary Cry News Talk is already in like the intro part of the text. So anybody who got the text, the first thing you see is Canary Cry News Talk, and then in all caps, Canary Cry News Talk. So sorry about that. I don't know how things work here. Some of the things is in Basil's hands. So there you go. And I think that's it. Let's get back to the show, and we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? Oh, yes. China. Oh, no, you know what? Oh, sorry. I forgot. We do the break here and thank some producers. All right, that's what we'll do real quick, and then we'll get back to the show here. It's break time.
Break time! Come on, take a break.
All right, I guess we're already in a break, but a little longer break, and then we'll get back to it. So we are value for value, which means, again, no advertising. We do not sell your email, sell our email list, which your email would be on, to third parties. We don't sell your attention to somebody else for our financial gain. We think that is, well, we think it's unethical in some sense, because I know everybody does it, okay? The big podcasts do it. It's just the way of the world in a sense, but we just don't like doing that because we say things and have thoughts and opinions that may upset those different parties. And we don't want that restriction. We don't want to be gagged by a financial sort of incentive to not say something or lie about something just to have a little bit of extra monetary gain. And so we don't do that. We keep everything free, and the reason why it's able to stay free is because of the producers. And again, if you are supporting the show with your time, talent, or treasure, you are a producer of the show. And as we thanked earlier, we have some executive producers who come in with $100 or more. And we also have producers, which, by the way, today was Anonymous and Sir Dove, Knight of the Fiery Chariots, and also Sir Captain Redbeard, Pirate King of the Demoochers. We also have producers who come in under $100, but over $7.77, which entitles you to have a note read. And so we're going to thank them real quickly. There's not many, so it'll be quick. First up, Julie S. Thank you, Julie S. She came in with $31.40. I did not see a note. Apologies if I missed it. And again, please show some grace today. Doing everything solo here. So if I missed something, we'll make up for it in the following episodes. Thank you very much, Julie S., for coming in with your support. Next up, we have Kira, which, man, is there a handle for Kira? I forget.
Daddy,
yes.
We better go downstairs. Hazel's in trouble, and there's break to glass down there.
He broke glass?
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, that's not good. Okay, well, all right. This is an emergency, apparently. Let's do this. I'm going to play. Hold on. I'm going to play. Stop, please. I'm going to play a song. I will be right back, and we will continue the show. Let me see. Let me find a track that I can play. That'll give me a couple minutes here. Let's do. Sorry, I'm trying to just pull things up here. Pulling an Audible. All right, I'm going to play the Psalm 40 song here. Revelation 5. I'll be right back and figure out what's going on. Yeah, that's a jingle that I had my finger ready to go, so I have to let it go. All right, here we go. I'll be right back.
The fallen dragon called out a beast from the sea. It had 7 heads with 10 horns. 10 crowns were on its horns, and blasphemous names were on its heads. And to it the dragon gave his power and authority. One of its heads had a mortal wound, but it was healed. So the whole world followed the beast, and they worshipped the dragon, for that was the source of the power of the beast. And they said, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" The beast was allowed to make war on the saints, and to conquer them. It was given authority over every tribe and nation. Listen closely. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain by the sword, then by the sword they must be slain. This is a call to the endurance of the saints. Then I saw a second beast rise from the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It shared all the authority of the first beast, and it made the whole earth worship him, the one whose mortal wound was healed. This second beast will perform great signs, even calling fire down from heaven. It will deceive the whole world into making an image for the beast that was wounded and yet lived. The second beast will then give breath to this image, and all those who do not worship the image of the beast will be killed. It will cause everyone, both rich and poor, to be marked, so that no one can buy or sell unless they bear the mark, that is, the name of the beast, or the number of its name.
Okay, sorry about that, folks.
Then behold.
I think you took care of it. A couple minutes there. Appreciate the patience. Let's get back to thanking some people. Where was I? Oh, yeah, so we're going to thank Kira for her $26.25. We appreciate that. And she has a note. Burning Man, I did Grateful Dead tour 89 to 94, including Europe. Europe's rainbow gathering between shows, including an annual... Oh, man, some of the... Sorry, I don't know why, but sometimes when I copy and paste the messages in here, for whatever reason, PayPal's HTML stuff or something, or their CSS or something gets messed up. Wild stuff decades later, so I understand the scene. Through all my adventures, I was searching for truth, yet miserable. Shine Christ's light. Thank you very much. And there you go. That's what I was kind of rambling about at the top of the show, is a lot of people there are searching for the truth. And I would imagine that they're kind of miserable because they can't find the obvious truth, which is, that God is there and that God loves you and that, Jesus is Lord. Thank you very much, Kira, for the support. Next up, we have Scott B. Scott B came in with $14.03, and his note said, Burning Man. That's it. That's all his note said. So thank you very much, Scott B. And lastly here, we have Runk Smash. And Runk Smash is on a 25 episode streak, I believe. Yeah. And I came in with 777 with a note here that says, hey, everyone, please pray for my brother. The scans showed a mass on his liver as well, but we're not sure what it is. And later this week, he has an appointment to get a treatment plan for the colon cancer. Love y'all, Runk Smash. So let's call upon the producers again.
Producers, assemble!
All you producers out there, those are people that are praying for the show, for people in the show, the people, or the community. Oh my gosh. I'm a little flustered here. Praying for the show and praying for the people in the community. And Runk Smash is one of those people. Runk Smash's brother here going through some tough health issues. So please pray for his brother. And there you go. Thank you very much for Runk Smash and for everybody who has come in today. The numbers are a little bit lower, but it's okay. It's kind of expected, especially with the current situation there. So thank you to all of you for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
All right, now we can talk about China.
Welcome to Chinese news. Comes from China. China. It's not racist at all, no.
Not racist at all. We have an article here from businessstandard.com, and it's an interesting one. The headline here is China's youth jobless rate hits a record high of 19.9% amid COVID pandemic. 19.9%. 1 in 5 Chinese youth are jobless. Wow. Youth jobless rate in China has hit a record high of 19.9%, media reports said, citing the country's National Bureau of Statistics. Chinese local media portal Global Times, while citing the Ministry of Education, noted that the number of college graduates in 2022 is expected to reach 10.76 million, exceeding 10 million for the first time, which is 1.6 million more than 2021. They surveyed urban unemployment in July. The surveyed urban unemployment in July was 5.4%, down 0.1% compared with the previous month. Fu Lingshui, a spokesperson from the NBS, said during a press conference. Meanwhile, the urban unemployment stood at 6.1% in April, followed by 5.9% in May and 5.5% in June. The jobless rate climbed to a record of 19.9% in July, compared with just 19.3% in June and 18.4% in May. Youth unemployment tracks those aged between 16 to 24. July is the graduation season, and a large number of graduates entered the labor market for the first time, pushing up the unemployment rate among youngsters, Fu said. Moreover, businesses have slowed their pace of recruitment due to the impact of the COVID epidemic. In particular, the slow recovery of the tertiary industry has also hindered the employment of young people. Also, many people, or younger people, look for more stable jobs, which has caused a gap between job hunting and demand, Fu says. The domestic job market is facing mounting pressure due to COVID-19, while Chinese authorities continues to implement policies in an attempt to ease the situation, as per the media portal. The most educated generation in China's history is facing a setback, as about 15 million young people are estimated to be jobless, and many are lowering their ambitions. According to the latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics in July, that's the one for China, the average surveyed unemployment rate in urban areas, okay, just more numbers, we get it. And obviously this was not difficult to see in the past. COVID shuts everything down. One of the first things we said was, hey, this is a great opportunity to restructure some global supply chains, and even more, enter the robots, right? Get the robots involved. And I find it very interesting because I found this article here, and this is kind of a quasi-flippy, and it's from ChinaDaily.com.cn, and some carrying water for Xi, apparently, this article. But the headline, China's Jiangsu accelerates digital transformation. And then the photo at the top here is, it's inside some kind of factory room, very bare, kind of tile or white tile looking walls and ceiling, very office-like, very sterile looking. And there's a bunch of machines, and there's a big robot arm, a flippy arm, and doing some work. And then just some Chinese person there, just one individual in the corner with a hard hat, sunglasses, probably because of the sparks that the robot arm is making, and a mask, of course. And here's what the article says. Let me get it in better frame here. Nanjing, in such a booming season for home appliance sales, machinery is operating at full capacity in the workshop of Gree Tissot Home Appliance Company Limited in the city of Sichuan in East China's Jiangsu province. Automated robot arms are working in a swift and orderly fashion to put components and parts in place with almost no human intervention, thanks to its quote-unquote brain, a smart manufacturing control center. The machinery in our this is a quote, the machinery in our workshop is connected to the central supply system, which has the ability to give out orders for the effective running of the entire production process, said a man in charge of Gree Tissot. just a man in charge of it, noting that the central control plays a key role in the workshop, which can monitor the real-time functioning of machinery and manage the scheduling of resources like raw materials. Gree Tissot has raised its production efficiency by nearly 50% and cut down its energy consumption per product by 18.39%. Energy consumption. I wonder if that's talking about human energy consumption. And, efficiency. Of course, humans are sloppy when it comes to manufacturing, and especially at mass levels. So very convenient, isn't it? That just a comparison. China's youth jobless rate hits record high. Robot factories springing up, doing factory jobs more efficiently and with better energy consumption. Sichuan has built 32 factories like Gree Tissot, a model workshop of smart manufacturing at provincial level. Okay, so the next one will be the 33rd factory. The city released a plan this February to advance the intelligent transformation and digitization of its industries, aiming to complete the transformation of 700 major industrial enterprises. Yeah, here's why they're not being hired. The young people, they got their college degree. Hey, can you code AI? No? Well, go do something else. And it goes on here. And it talks about all these different agendas for China to digitize their entire country and economy and the workforce. And so I think this does a couple things. first off, obviously, yes, as we said at the beginning of the pandemic, this is a great opportunity for machine learning, robots, and everything else to take over the world of manufacturing or any kind of conveyor belt type of job, and do it more efficiently and do it better. On the other hand, what are all these people going to do? The youth in China, what are they doing, number one, and what are they going to do? How do you pass the time? I think two possibilities, and both are similar in a sense to warfare. In one sense, if we do come to a more physical altercation with the East versus West, if World War III erupts into something a lot more front lines, just traditional warfare, bodies being sent out as collateral, to defend a nation, that kind of thing, then it's a great opportunity because China has all these people that are unemployed. But the other side of it, and this is where I imagine a lot of the social conditioning and everything else has been beneficial for a communist-style country like China. I think a bunch of kids are going to be forced to play more video games, which I know they have strict rules about, right? They have rules about video games.
Daddy!
What?
Hazel has glass in his arm.
Oh, no. Okay. Son has glass in his arm. Let me go take a look. Let me go ahead and play a little bit more songs here. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm coming. All right, hold on. Let me try to find that song and play a little bit more. Let's see. Here we go. How about we start off that Psalm 40 song around where we left off and play the rest of it here.
They bear the mark, that is, the name of the beast, or the number of its name. Then, behold, the Lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him were the 144,000 who are sealed with his name. They have been redeemed from mankind as the firstfruits of God, for they are blameless. Then an angel flew overhead, proclaiming the gospel to the whole earth. He said, "Fear God and give him glory. The hour of his judgment has come." A second angel followed and said, "Fallen is Babylon, the one who has made all the nations drink the wine of immorality." Then a third angel came and said, "If anyone worships the beast and receives its mark, he will also drink the wine of God's wrath." Then I saw a white cloud, and seated there was the Son of Man. He wore a golden crown on his head, and he carried a sharp sickle. Another angel came out from the temple of God and said, "Go and reap, for the hour has come. The harvest of the earth is fully ripe."
Okay, I'm back. All right, it's not as bad as was made out to be. He's fine. He had his little shard of glass in his arm. They knocked over something. Yes, chaos. All right, what was I saying? Something about China and the youth and video games or something. What was I? China video games. Yeah, so it's possible that the youth, like, what are they going to do? What, because they don't have jobs, what kind of ways could they make money? And I'm wondering, there was a story last year about China restricting video games for young people and how they're kind of beefing up the military and so in the way in which the United States has been demasculating culture, society, and especially the military. China's been going the other way. They're really trying to like beef up the masculinity and the patriarchal sort of sentiment or culture. But China's also very big on technology in terms of the gaming platforms. It's a big part of their market, esports and just any kind of digital game. And with Web3 coming along, there's a lot of play to earn type of stuff, very much in line with kind of like Real Player One, where you go into the metaverse and you do things to literally earn money that you use to pay rent and food and everything else. And that will become a reality. I have no question about it. But it's not for any random purpose. I think for China, if they do this, and if they're able to use the social conditioning that they have with the social credit score and everything else, they can create digital warriors, so to speak, like online warriors, where it's a lot more like Ender's Game or something, or Avatar, I guess, the movie Avatar. So anyway, I'm just trying to think of what all these people, these unemployed, the 1 in 5 in China, the 1 in 5 between, 17 and 24, what are they going to do to pass the time? And I got to imagine it's going to be something to do with being online. And given how controlled the internet is in China, I can see them, the government and the technocratic elite there in China, shaping the meta warriors. Because if it gets to that point where things are happening online and things happening in the metaverse / online virtual reality becomes more important than the physical world, what kind of situation will we find ourselves in the future? So that's just the thought I had in terms of this China thing. And I just thought it was interesting to compare the two stories about China not having, or the jobless rate going up to nearly 20%, and China accelerating digital transformation. So there you go. That's something to keep in mind. But that's not all that's happening in China. And again, this is all part of the social control mechanism here and conditioning the masses, especially the young people.
Since the beginning of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. I will do the next best thing. Block it out.
Climate change. Climate change.
Mass extinction.
This is from nzherald.co.nz. It's a New Zealand outlet. And the headline here: extreme China heat wave could lead to global chaos and food shortages. Okay. We didn't see that one coming, huh? Cars, batteries, solar panels, food. Global shortages and soaring prices are almost certain as China's seemingly never-ending heat wave sears on. It's the most extreme heat event ever recorded in human history. For more than 70 days, the intense heat has blasted China's population, factories, and fields. Lakes and rivers have dried up. Crops have been killed. Factories have been closed, except for the robots that keep working because they don't care about how hot it gets. More than 900 million people across 17 Chinese provinces are subjected to record-breaking conditions. From Sichuan in the southwest to Shanghai in the east, temperatures have been topping 40 degrees Celsius, which is, wow, that's very high. In the Sichuan city of Dazhou, an air raid shelter has been converted into a heat refuge. In Chongqing, subway stations are opening to offer subterranean recovery stops, but the extreme heat and dry weather are having far-reaching effects. Energy, water, and food supplies are being hit across the country. Rivers are drying up, dams are emptying, hydroelectric plants are shutting down. And there's a shocking picture of the drought in China. And if there's any government that would really test the abilities of their geoengineering technology, it would be China. As horrible as guys like Newsom and all these folks are, in my opinion, are they evil enough to scorch their own citizens? I don't know. Maybe not. But in China, seems to be a thing. But, the other part of it is that this is somebody in the U.S., dialing it up. Hey, China, you gave us the pandemic. How's this super UV light to roast all your citizens? Signs of things to come. The Sichuan megacity of Chongqing, home to some 30 million people, reached a top of 45 degrees Celsius on August 15th. That's gotta be like 110, 20? Hold on, I'm going to do the math here. 120 was what came off the top of my head, but that sounds ridiculous. But let me just do the conversion to make sure here. Let's see. And I know some of you guys probably know this by heart. I used to know it by heart. Oh, I'm way off. Close. 45 degrees Celsius is 113 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot, folks. That is scorching. Let's see. These are the highest temperatures China has recorded outside the occupied desert province in Xinjiang. Quote, "There's nothing in world climatic history which is even minimally comparable to what is happening in China," weather historian Maximiliano Herrera told New Scientist. Quote, "This combines the most extreme intensity with the most extreme length with an incredibly huge area, all at the same time. Electricity demand for cooling has spiked. At the same time, production has plummeted. Not enough water is flowing through hydroelectric power turbines. Nuclear power plants are struggling to keep their reactors cool. Chinese sources state that some 66 rivers have dried up completely." Interesting number. 66 rivers have completely dried up. And parts of the critical Yangtze River system are at a third of their normal levels. A third, huh? The lowest since the record began in 150 years ago. And it goes on, and you got these videos showing how hot it is in China. And supply chains are broken, and food supply will shut down. The Empire Strikes Back. China's Communist Party is saying it is taking resolute action to combat the crisis. It has ordered water to be released from its Himalayan reservoirs. They have Himalayan reservoirs? I didn't know that. An intense program to fire cloud seeding agents into the sky is underway. There you go. Where's my I should have had my geoengineering thing too. But yeah, this is, interesting again, how we look at problem, reaction, solution. And, look, cloud seeding has been a thing for a while, for decades at the very least. But to find a whole nation in a situation where they're openly saying, we got a cloud seed to get the rains going, it is just telling the rest of the world, hey, we can control the weather. All this fear about climate change this, climate change that. And similar to the problem, reaction, solution in transhumanism, where it's like, people get cancer. We're not going to necessarily solve it for you. We can treat it. We're not going to get to the source of the issue, but hey, we can do all these radiation treatments and things like that. Same kind of thing, right? Using cutting edge technology to solve the problem. So, I don't know. There's a parallel here with all of this in connection to the great Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. And, of course, on this show, nations like China, we understand they're a communist country and they run things a little differently. And it's not the Chinese people per se, it's the Chinese government. But because we're always looking at things from a spiritual lens, there's things beyond that. The principalities and powers that control the regions, right? Or at least are trying to. So it's very obvious to those looking at it in that way that spiritually certain parts of the world would succumb to the desires of the watchers or the negative watchers. So there you go. I had those are a couple of things from China coming in about climate that overlaps with climate change and geoengineering. And I think it's very interesting. It's all demonic power.
Demonic power!
Climate change. All right, we're going to take another short break to thank a few more people. But before we do, we are going to play a couple messages from the speak pipe.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message!
All right, so if you go to canarycrynewstalk.com, you'll see a little green tab either on the right-hand side or the bottom if you're on your mobile phone. And if you click on it, it will give you a pop-up window where you can record a message for 90 seconds. And if you play the message, if you record a message, you're giving us permission to play it or not. You know, we are the gatekeepers of SpeakPipe messages. We have a couple of them today, and we thank you for sending it. The first one is from The Sentinel.
What's up, Basil and Gons and Canary Cry family? It's The Sentinel. I just want to give a quick message about this character, Ina, who was posing as a Rothschild, and the breakdown of what it means to be a Russian-speaking Ukrainian, right? So first off, Basil, I thought your deconstruction, understanding why the news would include that small detail was very accurate. It is a very negative thing for a lot of us who don't have understanding of maybe why a Ukrainian would be speaking Russian. So I do think the motives behind that could very well be exactly how you laid them out, but I want to offer some insight to the family here. So we have to remember that Ukraine was actually part of the Soviet Union, part of the USSR, and they spoke Russian, right? So there's generations, 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, right, who spoke Russian. They didn't speak Ukrainian. And Ukrainian is having to be retaught in schools to students and to kids whose parents prefer to speak Russian, right? So while I was over there, and when I'm over there, I'm speaking Russian with my friends. I'm not speaking Ukrainian, but I'm with Ukrainians, right? I'm in Ukrainian-controlled territory speaking Russian with Ukrainians whose best language is Russian, and that's not always the case, and obviously this is changing now, but Ukrainians do speak Russian.
Valid point. I think somebody else also mentioned it in the comments on the YouTube page. So yeah, I think this is actually specifically for Basil because he was kind of pointing out the language situation there in Ukraine. So it's something that actually I personally have no idea about. I had some friends from that area growing up, but other than that, I'm not super familiar with the history. I mean, I was there when they tore down the wall and stuff like that. I was 6 or 5 or something when that happened. So I was alive, but I wasn't aware of what was happening. So we appreciate that. We appreciate the clarity and some of the nuances when it comes to topics like that from the boots on the ground Sentinel, who was in Ukraine for a little bit there. So we appreciate the message there. We also have one here from Rochelle.
Happy Monday, Canarians. I missed you guys. I would like to speak to anyone who may sometimes just wonder, what are we doing here? Where are we going? Who's driving this thing? Okay, maybe it's just me. But, where do humans fit in? I have no idea, but I do know who's in control. So, we were all created wonderful and wretched through a cosmic conspiracy, dreaming of the dreaded day when Jesus rescues me. Forewarned are the fretted future sailors of the sea. If it's Babylon you're headed, death is the devil's decree. Created wonderful and wretched through a cosmic conspiracy. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Stay strong for Jesus.
Hallelujah. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Wonderful as always, and appreciate the encouraging words there. Rochelle's kind of the word of encouragement here on the show now, kind of like the stuff I used to do there, but she only has 90 seconds to do it, and she sings. Makes it all worthwhile. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Appreciate it. We're going to thank some people who came in under the amount of $7.77, which entitles you to have a note read. And we'll go through the list quickly here. First up, Sir Darren Knight of the Hungry Pandas on a 38-episode streak. Thank you, Sir Darren. Next up, we have Sir Casey, the Shield Knight, the Streak. Oh yeah, he's beyond streak. He's the streak setter. He's the streak setter. 199 episodes in a row. Wow. That is amazing. Well, he just a couple away from 201. It will be event 201 for Sir Casey. Thank you very much, Sir Casey. Next up, we have Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, who's right behind him at 188 episodes in a row. Thank you, Sir Scott, Knight of Truth. Next up, we have Gail M., one of the Streak Sisters, on a 164 episode streak.
Women rule!
Thank you, Gail M. And again, because I'm doing this solo, it is very possible that there were a handful of people that came in after I started to document all the stuff for this episode. And for that, I apologize. If I missed you, we will definitely make it up on Wednesday. And we will also not dock you for your for the streak if it is the fact that you came in a little bit after I put the document together. So appreciate all you folks. And let's see, this has been kind of a crazy show with like kids breaking things and doing solo, and yeah, the show must go on. And with that, do I have to cut off? You know, we are going to talk a little Covido Waxino. And usually this is when we cut it off. I'm a bit more of a risk taker than Basil is when it comes to this stuff, because Basil really likes to preserve YouTube and have us not get strikes. I, on the other hand, I live a little more on the edge, which clearly I've fallen off because they've terminated 2 of our channels in the last year. But word on the street is that they're changing that, right? That they're not going to be as strict on the whole thing about discussing the Covido Waxino. So I'm going to go out on a limb and just go for it. Should I? What do the people think? Let's see. Danger. Cut it. They'll ban us. I don't know. You see, the reason why is because the stories we have today are kind of... Well, you know what? One of them is a little bit more inflammatory. It is a little triggering for me. So, yeah, maybe we should say bye to YouTube. Yeah, all right, fine. We're going to say bye to YouTube. Go to canarycry.party. Look for us on other platforms. You can find us on... D-Live if you want your chat to be shown on screen there. Otherwise, you can find us on Rumble. You can find us on Odyssey. You can find us. I think that's it, actually. It's like in Star Wars, the first one when they're in the trash bin and the walls are closing in. It's kind of what it feels like right now. It's just getting squeezed. Oh, you can also go to Twitter, either the Face Like the Sun Twitter page or the Canary Cry Radio Twitter page, and pinned at the top. Oh, I forgot to pin it. Oh no. It's one of the things I forgot. Oh no, I forgot to change the image on the thing on the YouTube. The icon. Hold on, I'm going to do that first. Oh no, I didn't. Or maybe I did. No, I did. Okay, hold on. Let me sorry, this is horrible. This is horrible radio. I'm going to do this real quick and update that. Oh boy. Man, running the show solo is you know, the last time I ran the show solo, I think it was episode 480 something. And things have changed a little bit. There's more responsibilities that Basil's taken on, which means more responsibilities for me to fill, or more jobs to do, more hats to put on when he's gone. So, all right, YouTube, the thumbnail is fixed. Canary Cry Twitter page. I'm going to pin the video to the top, or the stream to the top here. Oh boy, yeah, this is great radio before I shut off YouTubers. And on the Face Like the Sun Twitter page as well, you can go watch the live stream there too. Okay, YouTubers, you know what to do. Go find a different place to.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure?
Go to Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. You can find all those links at canarycry.party as well.
Too hot for YouTube.
YouTube. Now you see me. Now you don't.
All right. And you know what I just realized too is I didn't even talk about the title of the episode. Jared ATHANASIA. ATHANASIA meaning like immortality or avoiding death. So yeah. All right. Bye, YouTubers. Find us elsewhere. Click. All right. Time for some Covido Waxino. I don't know why I started saying that today, but that's what it is.
It's Corona time. COVID-19. 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 Yes. COVID-19. COVID-19. Vaccine. Number one way.
All right. We have an article here from Business Wire. No, I'm going too far ahead. Where am I? Oh, here it is. New York Times. Oh, man. This one really got my mind triggered. It is the headline here. The long tail of COVID-19 disinformation. Yes, more disinformation talk coming from up on high. And this is actually, excuse me, I got the show burps. This is actually an Australian letter, or I'm sorry, it's from The Australian Letter, which is a weekly newsletter from our Australia Bureau. Here's what it says. Quote, 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, 5. How many shots will you survive? Every Saturday afternoon, protesters collect outside Parliament House in Melbourne, then stream down through the city centre toward the waterfront. In November, when I moved to the city, this is written by, who is this written by? Natasha Frost. Uh-oh, is that Davy Frost's long-lost sister or something? Okay, yeah, Natasha Frost, writing for New York Times / Australia Letter, the Australia Letter. In November, when I moved to the city, those protesters were a tsunami of frustration and anger. They closed off streets and disrupted public transportation, the chants of thousands echoing off the glass and stone skyscrapers. These days, the protesters are more of a trickle, a few hundred people most weeks, railing against scientific consensus. Okay. Science, in its pure form, is never under some kind of consensus. That's like the whole thing with the scientific method, is that there isn't a cohesive consensus, and that you have a hypothesis that can challenge the status quo. That's the whole thing with science. But apparently these protesters, the small group of protesters, according to this author here, is railing against scientific consensus, COVID-19 vaccines and restrictions, the media, and the government, among other institutions. There's probably some Canarians in that crowd for sure. Around a year ago, Australia and New Zealand imposed strict vaccine mandates that affected where unvaccinated people can eat, drink, and shop, how they can gather to socialize and worship, and what jobs they can hold. These days, with the exception of some mask requirements and vaccine mandates for certain health and education workers, almost all of these restrictions have been lifted. Yet, the protests continue. In New Zealand this week, about 2,000 people gathered outside Parliament in Wellington. Though some were there to protest the COVID-19 restrictions still in place, others held signs against the, quote, UN agenda, the World Economic Forum, and, quote, socialist dictators, end quote, as well as banners that called for an end to the government. I like that. Just banners, just end the government. In a mock trial featuring a fake judge, The New Zealand government was eventually found guilty by the protesters for, quote, crimes against humanity. I like that. I like the creativity of the New Zealanders, that they would pull off a mock trial. Like, did they do this in the streets? I don't know. It's very creative. Rhetoric of this sort was already present in New Zealand before the pandemic, said Kate Hanna, the director of the Disinformation Project. Hey, Kate Hanna, if you're not trying to be accused of being the spokesperson for the 1984 style dystopian infrastructure here, maybe change the name of your little project to something better. The Disinformation Project just makes it sound very ironic that, because they're the ones kind of pushing the disinformation. An independent research group studying misinformation and disinformation in New Zealand. But something shifted in the lockdown that began last August, in which roughly a third of New Zealanders were largely confined to their homes for months on end, she said. Quote, that long lockdown seemed to change people's circadian rhythms of engagement with information more broadly, but also with misinformation and disinformation. People were consuming more for longer periods, end quote, Miss Hanna said. Quote, and it was coming from that space of U.S.-based conspiratorial ideas around masks, around lockdowns, framed within the context of a global conspiracy, end quote. I love this because this person, the director of the Disinformation Project, is saying that the lockdowns caused disrupted the circadian rhythms of engagement. Now, the circadian rhythm is sort of, it's a little, New Agers have really ran with it. There is a cyclical thing with life. Everyone the sun goes up, and then the sun to give light during the day, and then the moon to, have light, the light for the night in the sky there. But there is a cycle, clearly. The seventh day you rest, God's cycle. But it's just funny how she's like the circadian rhythms of engagement with information, and more broadly, misinformation and disinformation. And where was it coming from? the United States-based conspiratorial ideas around masks, around lockdowns, framed within the context of a global conspiracy. This is like one of those facepalm things where it's like, lady, I think you're part of that global conspiracy. Especially if you're just blaming people from America. All right, New Zealand Research Group, New Zealand's The Disinformation Project. You guys are saying, where did it come from? It was Americans. And I don't know the New Zealand accent. I can't do it. I'm bad with the Australian accent. The Americans and their crazy ideas. That's where it came from. It gets better, folks. People who might have been looking to learn more about COVID-19 found themselves pulled towards other kinds of disinformation. She said, quote, minimization of COVID-19 has been like a Trojan horse. Ironic. Ms. Hanna said, quote, it has become a really significant recruitment tool, and then has created an ability to coalesce around a set of ideas that are anti the state. So the lockdowns and people looking for information about COVID online was a Trojan horse that caused all kinds of people to get disinformation and misinformation. And it was also a recruitment tool. Who's recruiting? Unless she's spilling the beans about the anti-globalist faction, the conspiracy of the light workers, those who speak like a lamb, or look like a lamb, or wolf in sheep's clothing. It has become a really significant recruitment tool that has created an ability to coalesce around a set of ideas that are anti-state. I can't take it. It's like you're totally buying that you're this you're like a state mouthpiece, Miss Hannah. Do you not realize this? You know, there's something to be said about respecting the institutions. It is biblical, you know, to respect the governments and things like that. But I don't know, to just conclude to say like, oh, all these people are anti-state. You know, if this was Hunger Games, you know, she'd be like a perfect spokesperson for the district, you know. All right, continuing here. Many of these are... remember, this is in New York Times, okay? This is not a random Australian outlet. This is in the New York Times, republished. Many of the ideas originate in North America, but they have taken on a new form in New Zealand. Questions of indigenous rights have filtered into a homegrown iteration of the sovereign citizen movement, in which people believe themselves to be answerable only to their own interpretations of so-called common law rather than government statutes or proceedings. Oh no, indigenous rights! Sovereign citizens, we can't have that! And aspects of the QAnon conspiracy theories, which rotates around the false notion of a cabal of satanic pedophiles, appears to have new resonance to some amid a continuing inquiry into abuses of children in state care, which is hyperlinked. I wonder if they did a whole story about the... Yeah, it looks like it takes you to a link about abuse in care inquiry and insight into government agency roles. Huh. You know, if it's from the same outlet or similar outlet, I would imagine that they're defending the state there. The number of people captivated by these ideas is small. Is it? But they are a potentially powerful force that seeks greater political representation, especially in New Zealand, where a new alliance of fringe political parties announced at this week's protest in Wellington is currently polling at 1%. Ooh, it's the anti-1%, 1%. Garnering 5% of the vote in next year's election would get in a single seat in Parliament. Okay, so I don't know much about the political government infrastructure there in New Zealand, but it looks like if you have 5% of the vote, you get a seat in Parliament. Okay, so Q-heads, here we go. This is your opportunity. Interesting. All right, right-wing populist parties underperformed in Australia's federal election earlier this year, but in the upcoming state elections in the state of Victoria, where residents endured months of lockdown, the effects of COVID-19 restrictions may yet make themselves felt, with anti-restriction micro-parties, such as the Angry Victorians Party and the Restored Democracy's Sack Dan Andrews Party, hoping to appear on the ballot. And, okay, so that's the end of the article there, but I love that. I like the Angry Victorians Party, AVP. I just like the name. You know, I don't know what their political leanings are, but, you know, if you're going to join any party, join the Angry Victorians Party, because, you know, the thing that's funny, though, how long can you really have that name? You know, what if the Angry Victorians Party becomes... like the big, you know, becomes as powerful as any other group out there, and they become the biggest party? Do you really have the right to be angry anymore? Like, if you get your way, like, would they change their name from Angry Victorians Party to, like, Satisfied Victorians Party or something? I don't know. Anyway, so, yeah, I just thought this was interesting because, again, it's in New York Times, and they're just wailing on the Americans and their silly theories. It infiltrated New Zealand, and now it's infiltrating politics. Oh, the humanity can't have this anti-science. No, not even anti-science. I'm sorry. Anti-scientific consensus, which is, come on, everybody should be anti-scientific consensus. Even scientists should be against scientific consensus. But I continue to yell into this mic, and I'm glad you guys are all out there listening and either agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. At least you hear me, because sometimes I feel lonely, especially on a solo episode. Okay, so that's one side of the equation here. The long tail of COVID-19 disinformation, U.S. citizens bad, Trojan horse, creating a whole new party of angry people in New Zealand, and who knows what can happen. On the flip side, we have the Telegraph with this article here. This is a commentary from Robert Taylor. The headline: Bravo to the lockdown skeptics who were smeared and dismissed for daring to defend freedom. Yes, it was lonely. The immersion theme of today. I'm lonely without my buddy Basil. And also, it was a lonely thing to be anti-lockdown. But now the man who is responsible for the nation's finances belatedly tells us that we are not alone. Okay. This is how the article starts, by the way. Again, this is a commentary, but it's in the Telegraph, okay? This, I think, really shows the swing of the pendulum in the world affairs of politics there. The article begins, Hallelujah! Praise the Lord! It's happened at last. Yes, one of the most senior members of government during that whole lockdown business has finally admitted that the strategy was overdone, badly handled, and badly communicated. Take a bow, Rishi Sunak. I had to do a double take when I saw the reports. For those long lockdown months, nobody in government, let alone the cabinet, was prepared to say any such thing. It was left to a few courageous journalists and scientists to take on the overwhelming force of the lockdown fanatics, with police fining people for sitting on park benches and neighbors eagerly shopping each other like this was some authoritarian country. Yeah, I mean, yes, that's the thing. You guys, it's still funny. Like, even though this is, points for the the anti-lockdown people, they still kind of just toe that line, the mainstream, where it's, they acted like we're in some kind of authoritarian country. Yeah, that's what we were saying. These measures were pretty authoritarian, especially around the world. The brave few kept the flag of personal freedom alive. That really is no exaggeration, and they paid heavily for it. On social media, the abuse was intense. Was it? Was the abuse intense? You don't care about lives, they snarled. You murderers, they claimed. And in the mainstream, things weren't much better. You're a, quote, small, disproportionately influential faction, moaned a Guardian leader. That, quote, denies the virulence of the virus. Thanks for that. One MP, Neil O'Brien, took it upon himself to publicly discredit any skeptic, declaring, quote, they have a heck of a lot to answer for, end quote. No, you do, Mr. O'Brien, for stifling free debate, along with certain mainstream news outlets for failing over a 2-year period to examine whether lockdown might cause more harm than good. Yes, it was lonely, but now the man who was responsible for running the nation's finances belatedly tells us that we are not alone. He now tells us it was wrong to empower scientists to such a degree. I disagree with that. Not disagree, but I kind of, I don't know. I'm such a nuanced person here. It's not that scientists were so empowered. It was that these officials took one side of the scientific inquiry or one sort of view from the science and created policy out of it. And a lot of it had to do with simulations, like we've talked about ad nauseum in the past. It was all, even the lockdown in the United States was based on the model that suggested that 2 million people will die in America if we don't do something now. And then they started shutting everything down. So it was a projection. It wasn't even a real thing. And then you get into, all the crazy theories about how many people actually died from COVID or how many people just died with COVID. All that. It's a big mess. And I think that was the point, to make a big mess. But I take exception to the way they're that this author is putting here. It's a pro-skeptic kind of article, a pro-lockdown skeptic article. But, they didn't just empower scientists in a way. It's almost like blaming, I don't know, get into analogies. It's like blaming the boss. I don't know. I lost the analogy. Anyway, let's continue here. He now tells us it was wrong to empower scientists to such a degree, wrong to allow sage such sway over policy, wrong not to consider the long-term impact of lockdown on people's health and well-being, not wrong to discuss the inevitable huge delays of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes diagnosis, wrong to close schools, and wrong to instill such fear. Yeah, I can agree with a lot of that. That's what some of us have been saying all along, and copying a pile of abuse for our troubles. Sunak even tells us that he was prevented from discussing his doubts, and that when he tried to do so, he was met with a brick wall of silence. The most pertinent question to me, now that she is the presumptive prime minister, is the role Liz Truss played. I'd like to believe she was part of the resistance, but we need a clear account from her. Did she challenge Sage in cabinet? Did she speak up for children and the economically vulnerable? Well, perhaps she'll tell us tonight at the Norwich hustings. I hope there's some spice. Go for it, Rishi. Let's flush it all out. I wonder what came of this, because it seems like there was some kind of public square meeting there with some of these leaders. Sunak claims that minutes from Sage meetings had dissenting voices cut out. Now, why would anyone do that? And whose interests would it be? Why shouldn't all sides be published? It's quite an accusation. In fact, it's almost enough to make conspiracy theorists of us all. And I think that is also part of the psyop here. As much as, I was talking earlier about fighting my pride of like, oh, I was right, we were right, all of us were right. There is something to be said about, the people, the elite lizard people, as we like to, colloquially name them or, label them. There's something to be said about garnering a movement. How do you create a movement? Because people in general only go along with things for so long. You can't have everybody just follow the Pied Piper. It's never going to work that way. So you need to go to absurd levels of the authoritarianism to spark a revolution, the counter of that. And I think it's very fascinating, sociologically speaking, how they were able to do this, because in many ways it is a hijacking of people like us who have been saying things like this for a long time. It's a hijacking of that worldview of against them and create a movement. Revolutions are useful to the elite. But while I welcome, and I'm going to continue with the article, while I welcome and applaud Sunak's intervention, I also have a question. He was second only to the prime minister for power and influence, and lockdown was the most consequential, freedom-destroying government initiative since the war. He had severe doubts about it, so why didn't he resign? Yes, it would have been another headache for Boris, but given the massive consequences of the wrong strategy, didn't he owe it to the British people? Sorry, grabbing something here. It's strategy upon strategy. Okay, it's a relief to hear that someone in the heart of government had the guts to challenge the dangerous groupthink. But it's cold comfort to millions of children whose schooling was irreparably damaged along with their long-term prospects. And to patients who only discover now that they have cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, and to those who were denied the chance simply to hug lonely dying relatives. For all these lockdown victims, Sunak's words come 2 years too late. End of article. So, yeah, it's... And again, this is the Telegraph in the UK. This type of article would not have been published 2 years ago, right? Even in the opinion section. And so why is it happening now? And I think it's part of the counter-revolution thing that I was just talking about. And it's very useful. It's useful in creating revolutions, as I keep mentioning. And so I thought it was an interesting contrast between this UK article, bravo to the lockdown skeptics, and, Australia/New York Times. The long tail of COVID-19 disinformation. Oh, all those Americans, the crazy ideas, infiltrated like a Trojan horse. And now there's a political party in New Zealand based on that disinformation from the Americans. Says who? New Zealand's The Disinformation Project. Okay, one more thing here in the Covido Waxino. And this was given to us by Jam. Thank you, Jam, for this link here. And it's an archive here, but it is from... it says it's a press release. Yeah, it's a press release from the Rockefeller Foundation. And it is titled, Mercury Project to Boost COVID-19 Vaccination Rates and Counter Public Health Mis- and Disinformation in 17 countries worldwide. Worldwide. And again, this is straight from the Rockefeller Foundation. It says this, the Social Science Research Council, SSRC, announced it will provide an initial $7.2 million in direct research funds to 12 teams working in 17 countries in order to better understand how health mis- and disinformation spreads, how to combat it, and how to build stronger information systems while increasing COVID-19 vaccination rates. Oh my gosh! This sounds terrifying. What are you talking about, Rockefeller Foundation? You're part of the problem here. Oh, yeah. Okay. But, they're going to figure out, they're pouring in $7.2 million into a project to better understand mis- and disinformation, how it spreads, how to combat it, and how to build stronger information systems, or stronger information that we only want you to hear systems, all while increasing COVID-19 vaccination rates. I will say... just my opinion. I will say that I'm glad. 7.2 million is nothing to, it's a good amount of money. But all said and done, 7.2 million is not that much money to spread around 12 teams working on in 17 different countries to do this research, which leads me to believe that this is just nonsense, absolute nonsense, and this is just a power grab in many ways. And it's called the Mercury Project. Through the Mercury Project, enabled by the Rockefeller Foundation, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Craig Newmark Philanthropies, and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, who's big in the science kind of realm, with a total of $10.25 million so far. Again, a lot of money, but basketball players that sit on the bench make more than that. So, I don't know. It's not that much money if you're thinking about, if they're really serious about misinformation, disinformation, and trying to get the jabby jab in more people. Not a lot. Okay, so all these foundations, with a total of $10.25 million so far, the SSRC is supporting a first cohort of social and behavioral scientists from around the world to generate much-needed new research on locally tailored solutions in Bolivia, Brazil, Cote d'Ivoire, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Haiti, India, Kenya, Malawi, Mexico, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Tanzania, United States, and Zimbabwe. Interesting list for the United States to just be in, you know? I like how the Rockefeller Foundation is like Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, and the U.S. It's just like, whoa, okay. All right. I guess we're basically a third world nation now. Not that there's anything wrong with third world nations. You know, we know the people that were responsible for that. It's the same people that are saying that we're going to pour in millions of dollars to try to fix it. Following the characterization of... Again, this is the Rockefeller Foundation. Following the characterization of inaccurate health information by the U.S. Surgeon General as an quote-unquote urgent threat, and by the World Health Organization as an infodemic, the SSRC issued a call for proposals to counter the growing global threats posed by public health mis- and disinformation and low COVID-19 vaccination rates. It's so diabolical. It's so, I can't say it any other way. It's so evil to be like, just all the people seeking actual facts and truths. We must do something about those people, and they're not getting their vaccinations. What are they? We must kill two birds with one stone. Give us money. Okay, so anyway, issued a call for proposals to counter the growing global threats posed by public health mis- and disinformation and low COVID vaccination rates, and received nearly 200 submissions from around the world. Ooh, maybe we can be our own Trojan horse and submit to be part of this thing. With COVID-19 prevalent and rapidly evolving everywhere, there's a pressing need to identify interventions with the potential. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Potential to increase vaccination take-up. Vaccines are only effective if they become vaccinations. Wait a minute, what? Hold on. Let me read that again. Let me get it clear. Vaccines are only effective if they become vaccinations. Okay. Am I missing something here? Is there like a grammatical gap in my English knowledge that that's making me just make my brain melt as I read this? Okay, hold on. I'm going to read it again. Vaccines are only effective if they become vaccinations. Okay, all right. Maybe it just means like a product or something, like an actual. Yeah, maybe that's what they mean. You know, you can have a vaccine to something, but unless you make it into a vaccination, or you know, the jab literally going into someone's arm, is it going to be effective? We can have the solution to, or the cure to cancer in a laboratory, but if you can't, what's the word I'm looking for? Deploy it, distribute it, then it's pointless. Maybe that's what they mean. Okay, I don't know. It just gave me a brain fart for a moment. Vaccines are only effective if they become vaccinations. Vaccines are a scientific marvel, but their potential is unfulfilled if they are left on the shelf. Okay, that's what she means. Said Anna Harvey, president of SSRC. People don't want vaccines, Anna Harvey, president of the SSRC. Quote, the large volume of high-quality proposals submitted to the Mercury Project underscores just how eager the social and behavioral science community is to evaluate interventions to increase vaccination demand and build healthier information systems. You know, something I noticed, not a word about generally getting people healthier. Listen to the end goal. It's not for a healthier society or a healthier population. No, the end goal is better social behavioral science, or behaviors, basically. Better social behaviors and better healthier. They say healthier, but they don't mean that in the healthy, like health of like the biological health. They mean the health of the infrastructure. I'm sorry, let me read it again. Underscores just how eager the social and behavioral science community is to evaluate interventions. So they're saying they're going to intervene. Evaluate interventions to increase vaccination demand. What? You're basically saying, hey, we're going to socially engineer all of you to want more vaccines. Please. We're going to manipulate you so you want more vaccines. Otherwise, what good does it do if it's sitting on the shelf? And build healthier information environments. What does that mean? Other than we get to control the information that goes out. We being Anna Harvey and the SSRC. Then it goes into some affiliate institutions. You always got Haiti in there. You got Kenya. You have Mexico, Sierra Leone, Tanzania. We went through this list here. Oh, and then it lists the universities in the U.S. Carnegie Mellon, Columbia, Duke, Harvard, and Harvard Medical School, MIT, New York University, Rutgers, St. Augustine University, Stanford, UC Berkeley, USC, University of Chicago, University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan, Vanderbilt, and Yale. Of course, Yale. Got to have the Skull and Bones group in there. This initial, the quote continues, the initial cohort's ideas exemplify the creativity and vision behind the Mercury Project, said Dr. Bruce Gellin, Chief of Global Public Health Strategy at the Rockefeller Foundation. Quote, they go far beyond quick fixes with the goal of identifying robust, cost-effective, and meaningful solutions that can be widely adopted and scaled. We hope that more, better, and science-based knowledge about what we need to do will lead to increased uptake of reliable information and serve as a powerful counter to the effects of misinformation and disinformation on vaccine demand. Okay, we don't have to break down everything because everything triggers me on this thing here. Mercury Project is an interesting thing because Mercury, looking at the occult side of things, has an interesting history. One of the things being that the hold on, where was my notes? Where are my notes? I might have gotten rid of my notes on this. Yeah, one of the things about Mercury is that it is another name for Hermes. And, if you recall, Hermes was, Hermes has different names. He was thought to be one of the gods that instilled knowledge to civilization. And there's a whole bunch of different mythologies surrounding Mercury. And, one of them being, one of the other names for Mercury was Hermes Trismegistus, with the green, the emerald tablets and things like that. So, there's a long history with Mercury and the occult, and I just think it's interesting that they would name this project the Hermes Project, or I'm sorry, not the Hermes, Mercury Project. It was known in the ancient days as Hermes, Hermaon, Thoth, Stilbon, Tuat, Selenius, Hermes Trismegistus, and Arcas. It's the closest planet to the sun, and it never gets away from it by more than 27 degrees, which I find interesting, with age 27 being the age a lot of celebrities pass away, or at least musicians, it's a big number. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, a lot of the CIA created sort of superstars of rock and all that kind of stuff. Kurt Cobain and all the rest. There's more. I'm not going to list them all here, but very interesting. On another note, in the Covido Waxino, more so on the pandemic side of things, we have the World Economic Forum here with a headline from their own website. New initiative aims to take action on non-communicable diseases. I thought this was kind of strange, but also not surprising. In 2003, for the first time in human history, non-communicable diseases, NCDs, surpassed communicable diseases, or those that spread from a person to another person, as the world's most lethal maladies. Today, NCDs account for 71%, or 41 million deaths per year. From one perspective, this trend is a remarkable example of how far we've come in combating pathogens and childhood mortality, both of which have markedly decreased due to scientific advancements and coordinated global action. Yeah, that's why things have gotten better, right? coordinated global action. And, I mean, you can't really deny the scientific advancement part, but just in general, the globally, they needed another thing that is pro World Economic Forum, so they went with coordinated global action. However, these changes also point to the dearth of attention, funding, and cooperation given to NCDs, which receive less than 2% of global health aid despite their unparalleled toll. The COVID-19 pandemic has made the situation even direr as overburdened health systems shifted their focus to the virus, a double tragedy as people living with non-communicable diseases are at far higher risk of hospitalization or death from COVID-19. Okay, so let me just mention a couple things here. First off, the thing that we heard a lot during the COVID time was comorbidities, right? Because the World Health Organization published that thing where, it showed the whole chart, or maybe it was the CDC. The CDC published the chart, and it showed, all the deaths from COVID-19 alone, like just COVID, was 6%. And then 94% had comorbidities, whether it be heart disease or lung failure or whatever. And, there was always arguments about like, oh, no, you don't get it. They get COVID, and then it leads to these other complications, which leads to death. And so COVID becomes the underlying cause of death, which is, again, I read through that entire World Health Organization training for how to label a COVID death. And my takeaway, look, I'm not a practitioner. This is just my own personal takeaway based on reading through the entire catalog there that the World Health Organization published for the people that are actually supposed to do the labeling of the death certificates. And a lot of it said, it's okay if you don't have a lab tested confirmed COVID case. If it seems like it's COVID, go ahead and label it COVID. So, okay. All right. So in that regard, the World Economic Forum here is saying that there is a difference between NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, which means you can't spread it like a virus, right? Like heart disease or cancer. You don't give cancer to another person because you coughed on them or something, right? As opposed to COVID, which was all about isolation and, separating people out and, we can't touch each other or see each other because with the COVIDo. And so I find it interesting that they're kind of honing in on non-communicable diseases as a separate thing that's really underfunded. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is that this has to be all economic. There's no other way. This is a World Economic Forum, so duh. But there's the justification for the lockdowns and all this, the thing had to have been minuscule. And a lot of their thinking, the elite and the world governments, and stuff, it's exposed. As I was talking about, there's a huge pushback on all this stuff, right? Even in the science, people that are actual scientists are saying that it was overblown, it was ridiculous. Politicians, everybody's coming out against it. So they have to kind of shift. And I think this is the shift. They freaked everybody out. But in doing so, they freaked everybody out with the pandemic and everything. But in doing so, it actually caused the level of education of the general public to go up. And when that happens, it's kind of not game over, but it really is. You have to change strategies as the elite lizard people, because you've allowed the rise of it, but you also have to shift your movement because you can't be as outright authoritarian all over the place. Some places you can still kind of get away with it. But yeah, so there's a chart here that shows non-communicable diseases as being, let's see, the NCD versus like HIV, which is spread separately, proportional to global dailies. Let me continue with the article here, and then we'll kind of move on here. The imperative to change the global architecture of NCD treatment is not only ethical, but economic. Morbidity and mortality from non-communicable diseases strain healthcare systems, remove people from the workforce, and places an enormous burden on younger generations, often young women, who must cut their education or careers short to act as unpaid caretakers for their parents and grandparents. Though this is a bleak picture, there are reasons for hope. Coordinated action of on diseases such as tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS have shown us what the world is capable of when acting in concert. I'm sorry. Let me just go back real quick to that first article by Natasha Frost. And where was that line where it talked about how it was ridiculous that there's some kind of global movement? Did I skip it here? Yeah, they're pushing back on media and the government, among other institutions. Wasn't there like an accusation on globalization or globalists? The context of a global conspiracy. Yeah, I can't find it. The reason why I wanted to do is because, the criticism from that New York Times / Australian article was that, oh, look at these people, they're raving against some global conspiracy. These elites are trying to work together. There's nonsense. Then you go to the World Economic Forum and they're like, we must work together to fight against the problems. I don't know. It's just funny when you see these. It's a consistent thing, but it's an inconsistency of the messaging, to where if you're paying attention to what the World Economic Forum is saying, as well as paying attention to the New York Times and their little opinion piece, you would see that the absurdity from both sides. Like, oh my gosh, the New York Times is saying that there's some kind of is saying that there is no global conspiracy, when clearly the World Economic Forum is saying like, yeah, we're working, yeah, we got to work together. So kind of funny. The pandemic pushed policies to update obsolete regulatory barriers. Oh yeah, it did, and showed us that digital solutions. This is big right here. The pandemic pushed policymakers to update obsolete regulatory barriers and showed us that digital solutions have now reached a level of maturity where they can have real impact on people's health. And innovative solutions to delivering healthcare locally via community health workers, supported by digital learning, are taking hold throughout the world. And it goes into a little bit of the initiative. There's a section here. While the role of digital health certainly extends beyond these diseases, which it talks about the non-communicable diseases like cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Oops. Where am I skipping? What happened to where I was reading? They are unique in scale. Taken together, they are responsible for 1 in every 3 deaths, over 19 million people each year. They share many risk factors and solution pathways, and their impact is particularly inequitable, impacting disadvantaged communities to a far greater extent than those with consistent access to care. Yeah, and then it's targeting prevention of communicable diseases, transforming diagnoses, expanding therapeutic access. These are all sort of sub-headlines here. Innovating community health care. Ultimately, they're basically saying like, hey, we got to put in the virtual panopticon. We got to track everything now, because you got to be healthy. Right? Supporting this essential work with digital-first education, AI-backed advice. AI-backed advice. What happened? Where's the accountability? What happens if the AI-backed advice doesn't work? You get a refund? And care integration solutions can give them the tools they need to keep their communities healthy, even in areas where connectivity is limited, as many programs are now built as online first, allowing workers to record data in their field before uploading it. In the next 6 months, these groups working in concert, you mean they're conspiring? Will identify barriers and bottlenecks and share solutions worthy of scale. Crucially, this will only be the first step. The initiative's mandate is not to simply provide recommendations or to report on barriers. It is to deliver action. We need action. Enough talk. We need action. Understanding the barriers amenable to change is important, but it is not enough. We will take our findings. This is like this true lizard person talking. I can't do the lizard person voice. The Basil's better at the lizard person voice, but I'll give it a go here. I feel Such a dork doing it. Understanding the barriers amenable to change is important, but it is not enough. We will take all of our findings and utilize them to develop and deploy novel, digitally integrated, public-private partnerships to change the care paradigm. We now possess the capabilities to truly transform the global architecture of non-communicable disease care, and we must accept nothing less. Seriously, though, doesn't it sound like it was written by the most evil lizard person ever? I mean, I know we joke, but man, come on. We must accept nothing less. We now possess the capabilities of truly transforming the global architecture. And love this. Klaus loves this. This is like Klaus's dream. Maybe Klaus wrote this. Does Klaus write this? I mean, it is the World Economic Forum. Who wrote this? Hold on, I'm trying to find who wrote this. Cameron Fox and Dr. Lorna Friedman. How many people do they get on these articles? All right, project lead, shaping the future of health and healthcare, senior partner of health transformation and sustainability. I don't know, but again, you know, people in the mainstream complain that the groups like World Economic Forum are, and it's not a conspiracy. They're not trying to work together to take over the world, but then you read stuff like this and it's like, nope, they're clearly trying to take over the world. Why would they be so blunt about changing the paradigm of the infrastructure of information being shared and using AI and all that kind of stuff? Anyway, I get worked up. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you guys in the chat recommended that we shut off YouTube, because that right there, all that, definitely worthy of a YouTube shutdown. So appreciate the heads up there. And this is why we are a community. If I made all my decisions, I would probably be up to 5 or 6 different channels to get banned. But, here we go. All right, let's thank some producers.
I mean, come on. Give me a break.
It's break time!
This is a break. Don't just consume the content, but
become the content. Become the content.
Take a break.
Yes, become the content. Support the show by becoming a producer to help build the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk. All we ask is that whatever you make is for the show. Because we know there's a lot of talented people out there who have a lot of work from the past, whether it be an old band or some old tracks you made or some old artwork that you made. Yeah, we just require that it's specifically for the show. Maybe it's based on something you heard. Maybe it's based on something that comes up in a story. But yeah, it just helps us keep it lighthearted here, which is tough. A lot of the topics we cover is serious stuff. But clearly we're finding the absurdities, and we want to have fun doing it because, hey, might as well have fun. And to kick things off, we're going to start with some audio production.
Audio production.
And our first submitter of audio production is from Jonathan F.
Jonathan F.
And Jonathan F. made this little 28-second piece, and it's based on Psalm 78:26, Psalm 89:11, and Revelation 1:14 through 15.
The heavens are yours. The earth also is yours. The world and all that is in it. You have founded them. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he led out the south wind. The hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. And his voice was like the roar of many waters.
Awesome job, Jonathan F. That's a great one. It's short enough that I think we can play it at the end of the show for a little while, and really hits home. I really like the scriptures you chose for it. So thank you very much, Jonathan F. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Psalm 40.
In this darkened world, he can help you see. Just listen to Psalm 40.
Here's a note here. Hello there. I just now realized there was a secret meeting room for the Jingle Boys. I slapped something together in preparation for Burning Man. You heard it at the top of the show. Here it is again from Psalm 40, the Burning Man jingle.
Welcome to the camp of the unknown God.
Yeah, check out that double bass. I used to love playing double bass. I remember I got a double bass pedal, and the first thing I tried to do was play Metallica 1, like every kid who's ever listened to metal and sat behind a double bass pedal or a double bass drum kit. Anyway, sorry about that. Little nostalgia. Thank you very much, Psalm 40. Appreciate that. I like the metal influence there a little bit. A little change up. Okay, thank you. We also have one from Caleb, and Caleb says here, a jingle for Basil if he's able to connect to the Muskie Links, which clearly he has not been able to, but we'll play the jingle here.
It's coming to you live from
Burning Man.
I have hope that he as in Basil, will be able to connect with us by Wednesday, and maybe we'll have a show. Because it's a thing to go out into the desert, and if 80,000 people are descending into one area, it's an ordeal. And that's something that I learned from some of the past visits from with Basil and Carl and the Camp of the Unknown God. You can get stuck behind the entrance line for a long time, especially if you have like a trailer or something. And then you got to go to your assigned spot, and it just takes a while to settle in. So it's possible that that's what's going on. But thank you very much, producer Caleb. And thank you for all the audio producers. We appreciate it because, again, I always stressed about having more jingles and having things that are relevant to the show. And you, the producers, audio producers, you have no idea how valuable you are in creating the jingles and stuff like that to help us get into topic or, talk about an issue or everything else. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much to the audio producers. Let's do some art.
One art, please.
We shall begin with Dame Allie of the Skillet Nation.
One art, please. One art, please. Another one from Allie now. Here it is.
Man, am I getting a little loopy? I must be getting a little loopy by talking so much. Dame Allie has a piece here of Kim Jong-un and a haiku that go along with it. Leadership and equality. A Dame Ebony Blaze haiku. Kim Jong-un hides out in 8 new fortress mansions while his people starve. The heart of Pyongyang, ultra-secretive compound. Will it be enough? And yes, we have this beautiful portrait of Kim Jong-un. Little chubby, looking a little chubby there, bud. But the thing that impresses me is being the cabana boy, your favorite Asian podcaster. The hair. The hair is done in such a way, the Asian darker hair is a little bit thicker, and it's straighter, so it kind of does its own thing. And just the way Ali was able to capture that Asian hair is perfect. And what's hilarious is that the side buzz cut with the long top, that look was really, really in when I was a kid. When I was like 12 or 13, I had some friends. They were American. They were born and raised in America, but they were from a Korean family. Shout out to DK. I don't know. He probably doesn't listen to the show, but anyway, one of my good friends, this was his haircut. Exactly this. And, yeah, and he was into rice rockets and stuff. But anyway, all the stereotypes. And Jinkos. He introduced me to Jinkos. He was the guy. But anyway, great portrait here. Dame Allie, fantastic job as usual. And it's the ears too. Just the way that ear looks is so eerie. And the dark eyes, you can only sense the lizard eyes. It's not that you can truly see it, because, Asians have typically a darker eye, but you can just feel it. You can feel the darkness. So thank you very much, Dame Allie, and thank you for the haiku, Dame Ebony Blaze. It was based on an article that was published in Metro, mirrored on MSN. Kim Jong-un builds 8 new mansions to confuse enemies, plotting assassination. There's like a photo. The top photo is hilarious. It's an aerial shot of his 8 mansions, and then, like an overlay of Kim Jong-un laughing. Like, ha 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 ha. And all the assassins go to building 1, and he's like, ha ha, I'm in building 3. And then they go to building 3, and he's like, ha, I'm in building 4. Anyway, ridiculous. Oh my goodness. All right, thank you very much to Dame Allie and Dame Ebony Blaze. Next up, we have Sir Dove, Knight of Ruspeltia. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Sir Dove, Knight of Ruspeltia.
One art piece from Dove.
And it comes with a note. Peace. For this week's Bible artwork, I did a design for Ecclesiastes 4:4. Then I saw that all toil and all skill and work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. This also is vanity and is striving after wind. And striving after wind. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for you, Dove. Thank you very much, Dove. And yes, this is a piece. Looks like kind of a fisheye lens style photo of a couple houses. One is brick. The other one looks like a kind of a tall 2-story narrow building there. Both homes. And in the sky area of the image is the text. I saw that all toils and all skills in work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. Aha. Showing the 2 homes there. By the way, one of the homes, the street is 33. I see that detail, Sir Dove. So the house on the left in brick is 331, and maybe the house beside it, 335, was jealous of 331, which is more of a humble house, and 335 was like, well, I'll make a taller, cooler building. Hence the passage there. So there you go. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. As always, I think this is one that will, again, go into the coffee table book of the supply drop in the future. Speaking of which, I haven't talked about the supply drop today, but yeah, it's coming up. The deadline, anyway, will be Wednesday. Wednesday's show, I'll probably pump it a lot more on Wednesday because that is the last day to sign up. So there you go. Thank you very much, Sir Dove, Knight of Ruspeltia. And that does it for the art. And so, again, we appreciate all of our artists who come in. Oh, we have a microfiction. I forgot about that.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
And it comes from Wrong Smash. Agent Smith stalks the dirt street, stepping past naked hippies and cyborgs. She knows her target is ahead. She can smell the toner in the air like bad aftershave. Then she sees him. He's talking to a man in a fake beard, which is crazy in this heat. I think we found Basil. His fake beard. He was in Wrong Smash microfiction. That's where he is. All right. Thank you to all the producers who come in with their talent. We appreciate it. Again, you're a valuable part of the mood and temperament and just the feel of the show. You can help shape it. And if you've never submitted anything before, think about it. Use your talent, your God-given talent, and help the show out by providing art or audio or ISO or many different ways you can do it. Thank you to all of our artists and musicians. All right, let's wake up. We got one quick one, and I got to get out of here. I'm a little long today. Can you imagine that? Gon's rambling on and on and on forever. Let's wake up. Oh, I forgot to do all the wake-ups.
Yes, it's wake-up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
And we shall go... Well, I don't know why I'm talking like that today. Weird. Everything's like the royalty thing. To Antarctica. Let me try that again. To Antarctica.
It's cold, Basil. It's cold. Antarctica, go burn.
It's a snowstorm. Antarctica. Ice scientists are penguins.
Antarctica, they're opening the abyss.
They certainly are opening the abyss. We are going to businesswire.com. And the headline here, Dahua Technology develops the first electronic security project in Antarctica. Oh, finally. Been waiting forever on this, and we're finally here. Hangzhou, China. Man, China's just everywhere today. What is going on? For the first time in history, Antarctica has a video security project developed by Dahua Technology. Oh, good. China is in there doing the first ever in history video security project in Antarctica. The company donated 15 security cameras. Woo! Living large, which were installed in scientific bases on the White Continent to enable 24-hour footage, increase contact and connectivity with scientists on the ground, and improve knowledge of local fauna and meteorology. Ah, good. We need 24/7 surveillance because Lord knows what happens when, the sun didn't go down for like 4 months in Antarctica, but we don't know what's happening all day everywhere, on Antarctica. This proves how much of a surveillance state we live in, where they're like, finally, 24/7 video coverage of Antarctica. And it's like, oh, so you're implying that you already have that with the rest of the world? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what they're saying. I think they're saying, hey, yeah, we figured out the rest of the world. We have 24/7 footage of everything. But finally, we get into that white continent, man. Get in there, China. Dahua not only donated devices, but also developed them specifically for this project, taking into account that it is very cold. I laugh, but it's a thing, I just think it's funny where they're like, oh, Antarctica's cold. We must make cameras to sustain the cold. And then the Business Wire article is like, oh, they specifically made these for the project because it gets cold. All right, Dahua not only donated devices, but also developed them specifically for this project, taking into account that it is very cold, remote area with little connectivity. The new project fills a critical need since the region did not previously have security cameras that connect the general base with the capital of Argentina. Quote, the most difficult part of the project was to obtain the specific cameras that can cope with the low temperatures and climatic conditions that the region suffers in order to offer an optimal result based on their needs, explained engineer Jose Varas, BDM of Dahua Technology. This project is a closed-circuit television, CCTV. Yeah. Not Canary Cry TV, closed circuit TV. It's a CCTV solution that can handle extreme weather conditions. We get it. Is that the only thing that they're going to continue to press? It's like, oh, it gets cold. These cameras can help to survive the cold. Quote, with a temperature of negative 30 degrees Celsius that made it difficult to fix the devices due to the intense wind, added to the difficulty of handling tools with double gloves and constant rotation of technicians, said Sebastian Medic, president of Medic Electronic Security, which was responsible for the installation. However, this is a quote, however, the installation was a success, and the cameras are working and withstanding the harsh and demanding Antarctic climate, he added. In addition to increasing connectivity and showing more closely the activities that are carried out there, such as different environmental studies and the evaluation of the growth of flora and fauna, it also seeks to provide greater security to the runway every time a plane arrives. Did we do this story before? I feel like we've done this story before. It says August 24th. So, okay. All right. So, yeah, great. The better stuff for the runways. This project is key to supporting positive development and growth in the parts of the region that need it most, beyond contributing to ecological research and sustainable development. That's the UN agenda there for anybody new. They've been talking. I ranted and raved about this in 2015 when the Pope came to New York at the UN headquarters and basically announced the UN Sustainable Development Agenda. And then I knew things will never be the same. So, yeah, there you go. The project represents another step in DAHUA's commitment to integrating digital intelligence technology into the protection, defense, and advancement of the environment. Man, they always serve the environment. They don't serve the people. They serve the environment. Yeah. Pretty sure this kind of climate change stuff is Gaia worship. They don't know it, but that's what they're doing. They're doing Gaia worship. So there you go. I think we're satisfied now. Antarctica, for the first time in all of world history, is being watched with digital cameras that can sustain the cold, and we can get more data from the white continent or the white desert.
So a new discovery. Antarctica.
Antarctica in the bottom of our planet.
Advanced
Antarctica. Climate crisis.
Penguins.
Yeah, those penguins. Gotta love those penguins. Okay, we're gonna wrap the show here for today. Too bad Basil couldn't make it. I still haven't received, see if I received a text message or something. Nope, nothing. I have sent him since yesterday, actually. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, my God, some noise on my microphone here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 messages unanswered. Really hope he's okay. Yes, but well, we will see if he will return on Wednesday, and he'll be able to join us. If not live, then certainly some kind of recorded video or something. Or, I was telling him, hey, just call me, and then I'll just hold the phone up to the mic, and, we'll do it that way. But we won't know for sure. We have some people to thank who have come in with their time. We do separate time, talent, treasure, but really the treasure or the time and talent people, it's kind of a mix, right? Because it takes time to create to tap into the talent. And also the people who contribute with their time, they need some talent to be able to pull off the stuff that we ask them to do, like the Clippies.
Clipping all those videos. Thanks.
Thank you to Emsworth, Faye Liverin, and Epsilon for being our Clippies, the people running the Clips channel, both on YouTube and Odyssey. We really appreciate it. Again, it just really helps create videos that are standalones that you can share with friends and family, so that you don't have to say, hey, go listen to this. Go to 4 hours and 79 minutes where they start talking about the panda penguins or something, much easier to simply go to the Canary Cry Clips channel and dig out the clips you're looking for to share with friends and family. So we thank Emsworth, Faye Livern, and Epsilon for doing the hard work of clipping these episodes out. We really do appreciate it. We also appreciate the timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Yeah, timestamper is very vital to the episodes to provide the timestamps for the Clippies. This is a symbiotic thing going on here. But for episode 527, I saw Joel S. in there. Thank you, Joel S. But also Christine C. and Gretchen A. It was a team effort. Truly appreciate that. And again, yes, very symbiotic between the Clippies and the timestampers. Let's see. We also have social media.
The social media consultant.
Thanks so much.
Social media, follow us.
Dame Miss G. I always want to say Miss G Beauty, but it's Dame Miss G of the OV and Deep Rivers. Thank you very much for leading the charge, posting some of the things that we do on social media. I was wondering, we haven't heard from one of our producers. I'm trying to remember his name. It's not coming to me. Lloyd V. Yes, Lloyd V. Lloyd V did a bunch of deep fakes with us, or just like my face usually. He kind of tried to do Basil's face, but I don't know if those are up on the Face Like the Sun, like on Instagram or something, but that's the kind of stuff that could go viral just because it is a deep fake. There's a whole deep fake social media area that we haven't tapped into, and we have actual deep fakes. And I'm sacrificing my mug for the purposes of maybe reaching out to some people that may not have heard the show. So it's just something I thought of there. Meetups.
Canary Cry Meetup.
We just had a really big meetup weekend, and again, apologies for not being able to do all of the reports today. We'll package them up and do it maybe Wednesday. I'll make it a priority Wednesday, even if Basil isn't here. But if he's back, it'll make things easier for me personally. I'm just a little selfish about that. But sorry about that. But there are still other meetups taking place. We already had Knoxville. We already had Houston, Galveston. We already had Ozark, Branson. We already had Garland, Texas. I did not update. See, this is a problem when you have Basil leaving for some kind of trip. Stuff like this doesn't get updated. There's a Denton, Texas. There's another one before this, though. But I thought there was. September 3rd is Denton, Texas. Backyard barbecue at Schnizzle Dizzle's Denton. Or no, I'm sorry. Canary Cry Back... Let me read that again. Canary Cry Backyard Barbecue at Schnizzle Dizzle's Denton, Texas. Afternoon and evening. So yeah, if you're in that area... email AdamBomb101. That's ADDAMBOMB101 @gmail.com. If you're near Denton, Texas, September 3rd, that is this upcoming Saturday. So, yeah, if you want to RSVP for that, you can do that. Oh, and then Central Oregon meetup happening on the 4th. That's a Sunday coming up here. That's Bend, Oregon. The Central Oregon meetup, the Podski Food Cart Lot in Bend, Oregon at high noon. Contact Gabe Garcia 87 at yahoo.com and meet up with some peeps out there in Oregon. I think Basil gave me a hard time for calling it Oregon, but what are you going to do? There's something missing here. Weird thing missing. And we also have Mountain View at the end of September. Mountain View, Arkansas, September 28th and 29th. Pikeland meetup. That's Surreal Gray at gmail.com. SURREALGREY at gmail.com to RSVP. It looks like there's going to be a $666.66 reward of some kind. I don't know all the details. Maybe you can message Surreal Gray and find out. So there you go. That's all the meetups taking place. And again, if you don't know of a meetup near you, just put one on yourself. One of the biggest things we consistently heard throughout the time doing Face Like the Sun and Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk is, hey, do you know a church or some people that live in this area here where I live that talks about these issues? And it was at the beginning, I remember, trying to coordinate with some emails and reaching out to people that may know somebody who might know somebody. But this is just a much, much better way to do it. And you can take initiative. You will be part of producing the show by contributing your time and your talent and your treasure. It's all three of people putting on meetups to really garner the community and find out who your listener or who the listeners are, who the producers are in your local area. It's a great way to connect with people when the proverbial poop hits the fan. You'll have some contact, and that's really important as the world continues to slide down the steep Klaus Mountain. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Losing it. We'll see you at the meetup.
This is fun!
See you at the meetup.
Real quick, reviews, especially in Apple iTunes. Well, it's not iTunes anymore. Apple Podcast really helps with the algorithms for people to discover the show on the platform that the most number of people are listening. Of course, there are other platforms. We always harp on the Apple Podcast thing, but if you're on another platform, maybe Spotify or Stitcher or something like that, or I think we were doing Audible for a little while, whatever the platform may be, and there's some Podcasting 2.0 apps that also have that. If you do leave a rating and a review, just email it to us, maybe a screenshot or something like that, and we will read it out for just publicly here and say thank you. So usually Fridays is when we read the reviews, so we have a few days left. The target number is 5. We're trying to get 5 ratings and reviews each week. And the other thing is we're at 689 ratings in general, at least according to my little page here. We want to hit 1,000. Come on, folks. We can get to 1,000. There's got to be 211. Is that right? Yeah, 211. Yay, math. Yay, math, Asian brain. People out there on Apple Podcasts to just leave a rating and a review. Get us to that 1,000 mark, because I'm sure the algos love the 1,000 mark. So anyway, there you go. No angry uncle, no Basil ooh jingles. You're not getting any of that from me today. All right. Then we have Jam. Just want to say thank you to Jam for the links. Really helps out. And you know what I've been forgetting to say all episode is if you want to support the show financially, you can go to, or just anyway, really, go to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
And all we ask of you, listener, if you're not a producer, is to share the show. Help get the word out. There's so many resources from the actual website at canarycrynewstalk.com and the episode pages to the meetups, to the artwork, the jingles, also the clips channel, and then there's social media that we're trying to get out there. So the best way is still word of mouth, and we just encourage you to really share it with friends, family, who are curious about things. It should be easier for a show like ours to be shared now more than ever, especially as, it helps when the political pendulum kind of swings not our way, I don't want to say that, but swings conservative, at least on the onset, when the momentum is still going in that direction, which I've argued it's already kind of peaked out, maybe not. We'll see with what happens in 2024. But certainly this sort of a swing towards the conservative right side of the aisle culturally, it should be a really easy time to share a show like ours and, get people to tune in. Now, I do think that our show, it's the thing that is too bad, in a sense, for us anyway, is that it is pretty saturated. You know, there's a lot of conservative alt media people that, you know, we're talking about similar issues, not exactly the same, but, you know, similar things coming at it from sort of the anti-liberal, anti-leftist establishment thing. And a lot of people became celebrities or established people in alt media, which is becoming mainstream media. So it is saturated in a sense, but, you know, I think we're unique in that we have that eschatological perspective. We have a lot more fun, I think, than a lot of podcasts. Even when we're solo today, you know, I'm trying to get in there and do all the voices. And look, I'm a silly guy too. I know Basil comes off as the silly guy, and I'm the serious one. But you know, the reason why I was able to get such a great catch like my wife, a beautiful lady like my wife, was because I made her laugh. That's what it was. That's what she says anyway. She says, you made me laugh. And that's what did it. And you know what's funny too is I wasn't trying to be really, really funny or anything like that. I was just trying to be personable when I went on my date with her. Anyway, long time ago that happened. But you know, I tend to think that we just have a little bit more fun here. And look, I'm not saying that other shows don't have fun. There's certainly shows that do have fun, and you know, also deliver important information and everything else. So I'm not saying we're unique in that way at all. But yes, the Bible prophecy side of things and the just the joy that we get to express here, God's joy, it makes us unique. And so please share the show with friends and family, especially if you have like depressed friends or family. It might be a good time to get them to soak in world events and news without that intensity of that like ultra Q thing, and where, because you know, you have to know somebody at this point where they're like really into, maybe not Q exactly, but kind of Q adjacent at this point, where, you know, it's kind of like, oh, check out this interview with this guy, and he says that every vaccine, it's not just nanobots, it's the super nanobots, the ones that actually build the nanobots that get into your bloodstream. And it's not just your bloodstream. It goes into your urine and into the sewage system. And then it goes into the ocean. And then people go out into the ocean and they surf and they swim and have a good time on the beaches. And all those people on the beaches, they get the little nanobots that are from the vaccine that then went into the wastewater and then into the ocean. And then that's how they control you. Listen to this interview, and it's just, it gets really tiresome at a certain point. It's like, okay, we know the dark stuff is going on. We know the nefarious agenda. But, you know, you got to make fun of it too. These people, they undermine the power of God in all this. They undermine the power of prophecy, biblical prophecy in all this. And, you know, take things really, really seriously when you got to have a little bit of joy. Got to have fun here, because the real stuff is serious. You know, the end of the book of Revelation, you know, what happens to the saints, not cool, but not cool in the sense that, you know, carnally not cool, you know, just getting killed and stuff. And also Christians, you know, going in with the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. Had a commenter the other day on YouTube say that that's kind of like Christian nationalism and Bible prophecy, and I tend to agree. If where Christian nationalism is headed is some kind of military or some kind of physical altercation with the opposite side, the globalists, whatever you want to call it, then certainly that makes sense. So anyway, all right, I'm sorry. My rants are not as good as Basil's, because he paints an entire picture of some kind of convoluted rabbit trail into the dark mind of the VR headset with googly eyes taped on top of it, that allows you to go on an adventure, an unknown rabbit trail of different turns and twists and veering off into other rabbit holes, and it's a whole labyrinth of information and things that you get to be blessed with every episode. So I don't do as good with that kind of stuff, but, you know, I try to do what I can. But you don't have to do all that. You can just simply share the show by walking up to somebody you know, you grab him by the cage, and you shake him.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I will
want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Ask Noah. Oh, you know what I realized too? I was going to do the Jared thing. I think I just ran out of time. I'll just leave it here. You know, a little gift for people who listen to the very, very end of the show. Jared, in the Bible, obviously, he was the second longest one to live. He was the son of Mahalalel from the line of Seth. You know, Adam and Eve, Cain, Abel, Seth, and then from Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, then Jared, and then Jared's son was Enoch. Interesting, right? And if you think about the immortality conversation, and Jared, being the second longest living patriarch in the Bible, but his name means to descend. Jared, to descend. And so maybe the Antichrist is here. His name is Jared Kushner. Not saying that it is. You know, people get really worked up about that kind of stuff and like, false news or whatever. Again, not saying it is, but we just heard the man on this episode say that, we're going to be the last generation to either die or, the next generation will be the first ones to live forever. So maybe he's right. Maybe Jesus will come back. But until then, think outside the cage.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
You little rascal. I am so hot.
You're so hot.
I'm... God. I am so hot.
So hot. The heavens are yours. The earth also is yours. The world and all that is in it. You have founded them. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he led out the south wind. The hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. And his voice was like the roar of many waters.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Wives in the cosmos, children in the space lane.
I'm an adult in a spaceship.
Supersonic space plane screamed to life and the vehicle swooped upward on board. The passengers experienced 3 G's of force from the burst of extreme acceleration and watched the blue sky fade into space.
In the back have been cleared to unstrap.
Oh, yeah.
In the back have been cleared to unstrap.
Yes. Do it, Richard. Do it, Jeff. Do it for humanity.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship.
He can accomplish it. You can too. Big windows, cool. Rocket ship, cool. Space plane, cool.
Nukes,
cool.
Blowing stuff up,
cool. Space plane, astronaut, rocket ship.
Avius anchor.
We have Basil. He's a human. Just look at him. Go to the bathroom in bags. He can go to the bathroom in the cosmos. It changed everything. Wives in space, children in the cosmos. With your best friend, brother. Wives in the cosmos, children in the space lane.
We are headed to space.
Avius anchor.
Spread the clouds across the sky and made it
love the Great Reset.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support.